I'll have you do roll call, please.
Mayor Hernan.
Present.
Vice Mayor Moncada will be here shortly. Councilmember Berlio.
Present.
Councilmember Shemente.
Present.
Councilmember Tirado.
Here.
Staff is present.
The Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 3 is approval of the agenda as posted or amended. Anybody have any reason to amend this agenda? Seeing none, I'd be looking for a motion
So moved.
to approve. We have a motion. Looking for a second. Second. We have a second. Rose?
Shemente.
Aye.
Berlio.
Aye.
Moncada. Aye. Hernan.
Aye.
Tirado. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 is public comment. The public may address the council on any item of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda, and speakers will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Rose, I don't see any members of the public here. Is there any online?
No.
Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll close that and move on to item 5, which is our regular agenda. We're going to review the City of Angels Council Handbook with our attorney, Doug White.
Well, it'd probably be all of us, we collaborate.
Yeah.
It'd be all of us, it'd be a collaborative effort. I think the easiest way to do this, and the way I've done it with other jurisdictions in the past, is we literally just go section by section. We'll get your guys' comments. I obviously have some areas where I think that, and I think Rebecca, you have some areas too, where we think we can improve this, improve this. Some of it's just gonna be like new areas of law, for instance. And again, some of the stuff I'm gonna say, we've never had an issue here. I don't think we'll ever have an issue, but we have to have rules in place in the event that we ever do. So for instance, there's been a whole change in the law and what we can do and how you're supposed to handle, basically when you have somebody who becomes disruptive to the meeting. So we wanna address those kind of put state law, into the council handbook. So we can call it the council handbook, we can call it elected and appointed officials handbook, we can call it protocol manual, because this really does apply for the city-wide, it's just not for city council. So this would be the document that would govern like planning commission, any kind of ad hoc stuff like that. So I think probably where I would start off is just getting your feedback, council handbook, elected and appointed officials handbook, protocol manual. We've used all 3. It doesn't really matter, but we just want to make the reference to make sure that it's consistent with the idea that this governs all city meetings.
So Doug, because that was one of my questions, does this apply to planning and those other commissions? And if it does, do you actually then spend time with them, as this handbook would say, or would we write something in about the time you spend with legal counsel? For the orientation.
So somebody will, whether or not it's me or not,
Okay,
so it would be an open question, but somebody would do, if you were to, after we make changes, so let's just be really clear. This has always been adopted loosely, and interpreted loosely. Basically, the way that it got originally put together is I handed to the previous city administrator a version that we had done for a different city, and they kind of just, in order to save money, did all of the changes themselves, right? And so they're the ones who kind of put it together. I think Rebecca's looked at it and worked through it then, but I don't think since Rebecca's been here, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you and I have ever gone through and made a lot of changes. And this is really the first time that from a council perspective, we're spending time on this.
Yeah, we've said when we get to that, that should be changed.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
that should be added, or that should be removed, but outside of that, yeah.
Which is why you're gonna see some changes. So it has a lot in here that has been taken from, again, because the basis was a document that we used for another one of my cities, but it was also not for Angels Camp. It was maybe something hadn't been updated a couple of years when she took it, you know what I mean? And so So this is, I think we should approach this as our first kind of holistic look at the governing document. And I think that the goal would be, whether it's me, whether it's Rebecca, whether it's Amy, whether it's Rose, somebody would go and do a training with any and every entity that we have, either when they're formed or as of now, to get them, to praise them on what the rules are.
Have you had the opportunity to go through this before we're meeting here, or are you just planning on going through this as we?
So I've gone through it, and Rebecca's gone through it.
Okay.
But I think the reason I do it this way is most of you haven't looked at it, or if you have, you've done it very quickly, historically. And so it's to explain what's in here, why it's in here,
Okay.
and then to kind of have you stop me if there's areas where you want changes and for us to kind of point out through that. So I just find this to be the most productive way of going through it, because I think context is important. Plus, then it's recorded and somebody can go back and they can look at it and they can understand too.
So the whole time that I've been on city council, as well as all of you guys, it's been, like, for lack of a better word, it's been outdated, or it hasn't been updated. It's clearly.
It's never been,
has-
I'll say it's never
It's
been
never been-
formalized.
Right, so is it safe to say that this would be done every 2 years when there could or would be a change on council? Because, or do we just need to remove everybody's name from the front page
I would remove everyone's name.
altogether? And just say council of
I think it should be
War?
something that's done annually.
Yeah, we should
Right.
review it annually,
Yeah.
but all the names should be removed, because it's not.
It's not just to us,
Right.
it's
The
planning
Planning
commission.
Commission, it's,
That was gonna be
I would say the year should be removed. There should be reference to last updated.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Below, which is what usually is on policies, and I don't think it should be called council handbook, and that's kind of been a misnomer, because then the question was, well, does this apply to the planning commission?
Yeah.
Does it
So
apply?
I think I like elected official handbook myself.
Oh, so we elected and appointed?
No,
Well, that's
appointed.
yeah.
You know, because
because with the planning's
Planning
appointed.
commission.
Oh, yeah.
that's why I
Well,
asked.
and like-
Do we want to call it the handbook or the protocol handbook?
So it can be either handbook or protocol manual. So is it elected, and if you decided on elected and appointed, then it's handbook or protocol manual.
Protocol manual. Handbook seems kind of, I don't know.
I don't care either way.
I don't,
Any preference? Any protocol?
protocol manual.
Protocol manual is.
Elected and appointed official protocol.
And this is only important so that the references internally are consistent.
Right.
That's the only reason.
And a different picture. It doesn't snow very often in.
But that's such a great.
We can put our logo on it.
I knew one, just an updated.
So obviously you start off with the normal table of contents. This is all going to get updated as we kind of go through this, but we'll kind of kick it off on official page one, not a little Roman numeral ones, with the administrative guidelines. So this is part one. So what this is, this is kind of if you think about it as a contract, this is like a preamble. It kind of just lays out what I would call the basics, right? Talks about what the purpose of this. Oh, that's funny. It says procedures manual.
Page 4.
I didn't even check. We're on page 2 now.
Okay.
So purpose of the Angels procedural business. Not even. So we got to get some of the internal consistency.
They gotta get the, yeah.
So, and then some of our definitions. Like I'm a stickler on definitions that they have to be underlined, because when you put it in quotes, it doesn't draw your eye necessarily to it, so that you know that that's a defined term. So because often you're trying to scan real quick and find it. So I would like to add underlines to all the defined terms. But it kind of goes over the basics of the document, who it applies to, what's incorporated in where they are. So we got the Angels Municipal Code, the state law. It talks about the annual budget, general plan, the emergency operations plan.
Which I would recommend removing the date here.
Yeah.
And then it talks about orientation of new city officials.
So you're gonna.
The flow here is not great, right? Like it's a little bit random. Like I wouldn't have orientation necessarily of new city officials in the same place when I'm talking about California law and stuff like that. I do think that there's a place in here for orientation. And I think Councilmember Chemezzi and I, we're the only ones that because I use this document when we actually do our orientation. So this is, I think there should be something in there, but I think that should probably be a standalone kind of stuff. I think it's weird to mix stuff.
Mhm.
And I probably would have a little bit better purpose of overview, and if you notice if you go to the purpose of it, it sort of talks about it, but I'd have a little bit of expanded depth and conversation or narrative about the purpose of this as it relates to all the other committees, because just saying that pertaining to meetings of boards, commissions, or advisory groups, no, this is the governing document of how those meetings are going to. So I think that there's just cleanup in this section, but the purpose of really is just to lay an introduction, what this is, how it's supposed to be used, what provisions are incorporated in, what are some of the major sections. So from a legal standpoint, you got the municipal code, you got state law, and you got federal law. From the city side, in terms of the operational documents, you've got the general plan, you've got your annual budget, and then you've got your emergency operations plan. I don't think we're missing anything else. So you have kind of that.
We might want to add strategic plan.
Well, strategic plan, yeah, we don't have that in everyone, but that's a good add. And your strategic plan is your visioning work too, right? It's both in one. Yeah. Okay. So we can add those. So those are kind of, and those are like what I call the core of your legal documents, and then core of your operations. So it's like, you know, kind of like, you know, what happens and how the handbook fits into all of that. I'm a huge believer in orientation. I think it's one of the most important things that we do. Traditionally, the city administrator and the city attorney do it together. I have found that to be the most productive. And then just because of the legal component, there's always an opportunity at the very end where we ask the administrator to leave, and then it's just like, hey, if there's anything that you need, particularly for new folks, if there's anything that you need to tell us that it has to be attorney-client privilege, this is that opportunity to go do that. It's usually not used, but usually when it does come up, it's super important that we have that conversation. So, and then I'd like to add an expanded section on definitions, right? Because we need obviously a lot more than just chair, city council, and city official. So we need to expand, in my opinion, our definition section. And usually what I'll do is something like, I'll give you an example. So on page 2, at the very beginning, it's a city official's handbook, and it has quote the handbook. That's a definition. So usually what we'll do in our definition section is we'll put the handbook, and then we'll make a section page, as defined on page 2, right? So the only thing is that becomes a little bit of administrative things, because when you add stuff and add pages, then it gets there. So sometimes what we'll do is not say page 2, we'll just say chapter 1, section A.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll do one of the two things there. So here, this is why it exists. Those are the changes that we're recommending. Anything else on there before we keep going? And I know this looks and sounds tedious, but it actually is relatively quickly. City Council, general powers and responsibilities. This is a super important component of it, because outside of our municipal code, which tends to be fairly pithy on this is where we really define how things work, right? You know, who's running the meetings, what's involved in the function of the mayor, what's involved in the function of the vice mayor, and we need to add a whole bunch of stuff on like chairs and stuff like that, because again, this was in some ways council centric, while meant to apply to everybody else without not incorporating all the provisions applied to everybody else. So that's why we need to add stuff to like chairs and vice chairs in there.
Right.
I apologize if I'm sniffing or coughing. It's super bad allergies. I clean up a little bit when I come up here, but usually I'm not here long enough before everything starts. This year it's tough.
It's horrible.
But I don't have COVID or anything else like that. So it's just allergy.
So, Doug, I'd like to flesh out the duties of the mayor a little bit more.
Those were the recommendations.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to go over what if you want to have a discussion about it, then this is the appropriate time to have a discussion, but it is one of our recommendations on mayor, vice mayor, chair, and vice chair, as well as what happens when neither one of them is there.
Okay.
Or they're both disqualified, like they just had this happen to me in Arcata, both disqualified because of conflicts. So I only have 3 remaining members who run for me.
What'd you do?
Gosh,
You
awesome.
had it. Oh. Did you do it with a on your
Well, it's always a question. Does the long straw win or does the short straw win? It's more of an analogy of how you look at the position.
Right.
So you're gonna suggest fleshing out the
Yeah.
role of the mayor and then you'll get that back to us then? Is that what you're suggesting?
It is, but this would be the appropriate time if you have specific components that you want in it to have that conversation.
Yeah,
So that way, this is like a 2-step instead of like a 3-4 step.
right. I just think, having been on the council the shortest amount of time, I think it's important just to make sure everyone understands and defines that role, especially as new people can step into it.
Yes.
And so that they're not understating their boundaries and not overstating what they can do.
Correct. So the role of the mayor is to run the meetings, right? They have certain appointment authority, and they sit on certain committees that are set aside for the mayor.
We don't have any.
No, I'm just saying generally.
Oh, sorry.
Generally speaking. So as an example, Stanislaus County, if you are the mayor, you're automatically on the mayor's committee. You don't have that because we're only one great city. But you are your own mayor's committee. And then the second thing is, I believe that they're an automatic appointment to COG,
Oh,
right?
For us? Or-
No, it's citizens.
Yeah.
So in other cities, a lot of times we build it in. The reason it's different here and it's different in Tuolumne is there's each of these counties only has one broker.
Gotcha.
So like sometimes like LAFCO is a good example. You might by default become like one of the 2 people on that. As of right now, as it relates to appointment, correct me if I'm wrong, it's always just voted on by the council as a whole. So if you want to change that, again, good time to have that conversation. But those are that's what separates it out. So again, running the meetings, certain appointment authority, like in some cities, like for not planning commission, but let's say there's a Parks and Rec committee, right? That Parks and Rec committee, you could only be appointed at the recommendation of the mayor, and then it's ratified by the rest of the council or rejected by the rest of the council. We don't do that again here, but that would be an example. So appointment authority and then committee authority. Other than that, they are the ceremonial leader for the city. What I mean by ceremonial leader is generally speaking, they're the ones who will assign either them or the city manager, like press releases or ribbon cuttings, on behalf of the city. Proclamations, things of that nature. So they're the ceremonial leader, but they aren't eligible to do anything that hasn't already been approved by
the council.
the council as a whole. They're just kind of like the.
What about the mayor not holding a vote unless it's a tiebreaker vote?
I don't have any cities that currently do that, but some cities in California have.
Okay.
We don't do that here. The mayor can both make motions here, second, and can vote, and is recorded vote on everything. You can do it if you want to. I just don't have these cities that do it that way. So other than that, I don't think I'm missing anything.
Well, I'd like to talk about the mayor and vice mayor serving 2-year terms, and I don't think we should preclude Isabel. I think if Isabel wants to serve for 2 years, but I think after her term, I'd like to see us go back to a 1 year.
So let's explain why we did the 2 years. So everybody else was new.
I know.
So, and that's the reason why they changed
Yeah.
it to 2 years. So it hasn't always been 2 years.
Right.
So I just want you to
It's
understand.
like been one.
Yes,
Yeah.
It was 2 with Amanda because of why? You guys just voted her in twice? Or why was it 2?
She's only one. It was Amanda, then Joe.
Oh, she got
I
I
thought,
thought she got a half term. Like
One and a
somebody
half?
left. I think she got one.
I thought
When I
was
came
you.
in, it was Amanda, and then it was Joe Olivera.
Yes.
For the 4 years?
Yeah.
He was only on.
Oh.
I was only
you
on
were-
2,
Then you were two.
and then everybody, Amanda got voted over there, Linda, Veronica, and Joe wanted to go fishing.
You know, I've done twice because nobody else wanted to do it.
I thought so, but I can't.
Maybe
But
that's
it
what
was a
was.
renewal, it wasn't a
Right,
automatic.
no, there was a.
Literally everybody, I think if I remember correctly.
From when we adopted this, we're a year and a half in, so if we wanted to change it, we could have that discussion in
Well,
January.
right, well, I just think, why January?
Cause that's when the.
That's when elections
term starts.
come up.
Well, but then you would automatically step in, right?
No.
Oh,
No, so this wasn't every
It needs to be
January,
December.
kind of like when we go over the meeting appointments as
Yeah,
well.
it's an
Not
appointed-
meeting.
Oh,
meeting
so the point is-
Oh, you don't fill a seat and move up.
No.
It's not automatic. It can happen, but it's
So-
not automatic.
So the way it currently works, and we have to make municipal code changes too, depending on how you want to attack this, there is what I would call custom and practice, which we can memorialize in here. I don't think I have any cities that have mandated who goes next and how long they go. They're all just custom and practice of either 2 years or 1 year, depending on how you want to do it. So for instance, Sonora's 2 years. You guys have been both 1 and 2 years. Arcata's 1 year. All my other cities have elected mayors, separately elected mayors.
I guess what's driving this is, you're here for 4 years, and if you choose to rotate into that seat, it's obviously up to the council that you rotate into that seat. But, when you're locked in for 2 years, it diminishes an opportunity to be able to do that. I don't want to take anything away from anyone. This is something
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think, when you have 4 years here, that's it. Everyone should get a chance at wanting to be mayor if they want to.
If they want to.
And it's hard when it's 2-year terms. And it came back to council. It doesn't have to wait till January. It can come back at any time and you can talk about it. But I agree with you. I think it's nice that if somebody wants to, and if somebody wants to do it 2 years in a row, then they get asked to do it 2 years in a row. They get voted in twice, or whatever.
Well, then, the reason that most people keep it as guidelines is there are fears in some cities, not here. And those fears have been voiced to me that somebody would be a disaster as a mayor, like maybe. And so a lot of times the council wants to keep the ability to
Flip that.
if a majority feels like somebody's
Flip
going
the
to be a
narrative. I see
disaster,
it. I got you.
right?
Yeah.
Without
Or
making
you
it
mean
awkward. And
Personnel.
does this usually then
Yeah,
align
whatever.
with the other boards?
Some people don't follow rules very well.
If we're changing this to 1 year or 2 years, then is that gonna also be the boards, the term of the other committees that we're on? Or
Doesn't have to be. You can keep it however you
those
want.
don't need to mesh?
And prior to this being added, it was blank. Like if I look at the original version, it
There was
didn't
nothing
say
there?
it, there was nothing. So you would have just done an annual
Appointment
appointment in terms of.
of all the boards and the mayor and the vice mayor.
So can we just say an annual appointment of mayor and vice mayor and not even put a year?
Yeah.
Can you just say
That would make
annual and then
sense.
just do
I
it?
do think you want to memorialize what you want your custom and practice.
Okay.
So as an example, if you really want the custom and practice to be that it's annual, right?
Yeah.
An annual appointment.
Then you should say that. Now, if you want to make it so that after Isabel's term, because Isabel would be technically who's up next, even though this, as it stands right now, like this is one of the weak components, it doesn't memorialize, and I think that there's some reasons that got put in there. But it doesn't memorialize the fact that there's a preference to some dot. Usually the way it goes is the most senior person who hasn't had the opportunity within consecutive terms to do it. So why I threw the last part in is sometimes people will have run for mayor over multiple decades, or run for council over multiple decades, and maybe they've been mayor already, but it was like 15 years ago.
Right.
Right? So this actually is another Arcata example. The next in line has been mayor, but she was mayor 15, 20 years ago. So the question becomes, she's not the most senior person who's never been mayor, right? That would be a
Because she
different,
has been
that would be,
mayor, yeah.
because she'd been mayor, but
Yeah.
it was like a decade and a half ago, right? So does that count or not? So what we usually say is, the way we usually write it these days, it's the most senior member who hasn't had an opportunity to be mayor during their consecutive terms. Meaning, so if they go off for 2 years and they come back on 2 years later, it resets the clock.
Right.
Well, we have problems with just getting enough people and getting
Right.
appointments, so I think we should just change it to say the mayor and vice mayor are appointed annually.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
Yep.
Don't worry about senior this and that, and figure it out in January
Yep.
when we appoint all of the other committees. That would be that very first meeting in
Do we have
January.
to vote on this? Or
No.
are
Once
we?
we-
Now we're just giving direction, but
Once we bring it back, you'll be approving.
that being said, you guys need to have enough discussion that it's very clear that there's a majority on this, because the last thing you want us to do is to bring something back
Yeah, and say that
And
we
then-
don't want it.
Hash it back out again.
and then re-litigate it, so to speak.
I'm good with the annual.
So is there some reason why, because I was under the assumption, and I don't know if the public is under the assumption, that there's you move a seat, Isn't that how the board of supervisors
They've
is?
done it many ways.
They've done it many ways.
It typically,
Your
the
vice,
vice becomes the chair the next year, but there's been a couple times where that's been.
because it's political?
Yeah.
Well, because of what's going on or what have you, but typically it does align with elections too.
Yeah, that's.
So, it would
Okay.
be, whoever's term, but they're annual, they're not 2
Right.
years. But it's gone always, you've seen it gone always. You can almost predict who's gonna be the next chair, but I've seen it go sideways.
Oh,
at least
yeah.
twice.
So here Andy would not, because he's up for,
And he's not
he's
running.
not running.
Right.
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
that would be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But there was a year that he didn't get chair from vice. Do you remember that
No,
year?
it was right. No. it
And
was
we've had a
right.
West here that didn't make the mayor. Here.
There
Yeah,
was
Linda.
Joe is moving.
Yeah, okay.
Was that what we did then?
And the only thing is the public does think that there's something to be said for being mayor, which I tell people all the time. I've been on council for 4 years. This is no different
Right.
for me. It's not like it was elected. And I think the public thinks that there's more weight or more valor or more something to being mayor. And I don't know, we don't want to change it to elected separately because that would be 4 years. I don't know. It's-
Hell no.
I tell people all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if nobody's any different.
Somebody's different on the voting scale, but I feel I got to do more. I feel I was involved more. I feel you got to,
You can be.
you got contacted, I got contacted more, it was during COVID, right? I was contacted more from news agencies and different things to get to talk and, so,
But
and
that's
you went and
because-
spoke.
That's because of an emergency though. So when
Right.
there's an emergency council, the mayor shall be the chairman.
Oh, maybe that's okay.
And so if there is a declared emergency going on.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
That's why.
It was yesterday.
So that was one part of the changes.
Okay,
So when it comes to the emergency, like if you're chairing something, that's different, but usually the head of emergency services, the person that you want is the city manager, because the city manager, city administrator is here every day.
Right.
Like, and has somebody appointed in the thing. I mean, this is a little bit different because you guys are a small town, but, you might not be able to do it. So it actually happened in Sonora when they had the fire
Mhm.
that cut out. And the mayor, which was Matt Hawkins at the time, was like out of state,
Mhm.
right? And we had to call a state of emergency because we thought it was gonna burn down the town.
Yeah.
Cause they got actually really close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
came up with call links.
And so, but you got a city administrator or somebody acting for the city administrator that day. So we wound up making that change, and that was one of the reasons for it. Now the mayor would still preside over any meetings and stuff like that to the extent that they're available, but then you have planning that goes mayor to vice mayor, and then if you can only get a quorum, then you draw straws. Although again, that needs to be regardless of here.
The only other thing that I think maybe needs to be looked at is that last sentence of the mayor is recognized as the official head of the city for all ceremonial purposes. I don't find that to be true. I've gone to ribbon cuttings, and I've missed ribbon cuttings, and they still go on without the mayor. And then vice versa, if 2 or 3 of us are at a ribbon cutting, we all do the ribbon cutting typically, if there's more than one.
Oh, okay, so just,
So I don't know that, if that's my opinion.
But I remember when we dedicated the park, Forest Complex.
Walk center, yeah,
I don't, were you mayor then? Someone
no.
from the city who was the mayor came and read a proclamation.
And I guess that's what we don't really do a lot of ribbon cuttings, either ACPA or DAC does.
Right,
So-
they're not
They're not our
our
event.
city events.
Yes,
so maybe better just to say that the mayor is the ceremonial head of the city. And
Right.
Get into the other stuff.
Yeah.
Because it is true. It's, what I mean. by
If we're gonna
that
have
is
one.
You're the, so like one of the things that changes. So, and you guys all know this. So during Alvin's term as mayor, whenever a legal issue popped up and one thing when a single city council member needed to know, it's always the mayor.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's where you.
That's the
Yeah.
one real
And that's
caveat.
happened with you and me as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, yeah.
There may be certain times when, and this has happened too,
If
when
mayor,
there's
vice
splits,
mayor.
when there's splits, and then it would be like, okay, I pick one person on the other side, but it's always in consultation with the mayor too.
Yeah.
So
No, that's the big.
And that, and yeah, and like I remember there was, I had to sign, I'd go in and do a lot of, a few
But
more
you were
things.
still
but that-
signing checks and stuff too, weren't you?
Hell,
Oh
yes,
my
I
God.
was.
No, that's the.
That's like
Sign
you.
after
Yeah,
the
that,
meeting,
you had started and then finally.
20 documents.
But I'm just saying, there were some legal documents and this all ties in with the COVID thing too. We had some businesses, we had to send some educational stuff too. We had to do things and that all ties into that too. But it was pretty educational and really eye-opening too. So yeah, but I'm good with the annually and I don't know, you're still,
we gotta put the timing, so the timing.
you're still, Sarah, you still,
It's basically the first meeting after,
The first of the year.
no, it's the first meeting,
After the election.
or it's the same meeting where you certify the election results.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the reason for that is generally, there's at least a 50% chance that the person,
Currently.
is no longer on campus.
right, it's off, right.
Because there's.
So whatever
gonna be
that,
ones
whatever
are
that
associated.
election,
When do we
the meeting
certify the
following
election
certify.
by? The second weekend
Yeah.
after
First meeting in December.
first meeting in December?
I thought the elections weren't certified until the 3rd.
30 days after the election, they have to be done.
Okay, because in the school district, we couldn't meet the first 2 Mondays because we had to meet the 3rd Monday, because that's when they had all, maybe it's not any different for city, is it though, Doug? So maybe you're right, maybe something's changed, but I
But usually the
remember,
first meeting in December, there are times when it's really late in November, and the way the calendar will hit, where it goes the second meeting in December, but that's usually there.
Can you just put that on there, the certification of election,
There you go.
yeah.
depending on however that falls?
Same meeting as certification.
Same meaning as certification of election, and then
There you
no matter where it falls, then it's just there.
Yep.
So,
I mean, that's just there so that you always have a mayor.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
No, that's.
Yeah.
So, and then Doug, maybe I'm just too old to understand this, but under city administrator, the 3rd from the last sentence, in addition to his general powers, I mean, I just think maybe there was a city manager who was male, or would you say
His or her.
Yeah.
his? Or
I think Melissa wrote this when she was here, so she
Good,
probably just did a copy and
thanks.
although my document doesn't say his, so I don't know.
Oh, it does, okay, well, mine
Mine
does.
does.
Oh, your.
The document, the
Oh, your
original
original.
document.
Oh, okay.
My original document is
Okay.
gender.
Neutral.
Gender neutral, okay.
Gender.
Gender fluid.
There you go.
Pronoun correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So yeah, so the only other thing I can think of is the mayor has, some agenda setting responsibilities. So, but you guys are all entitled to come in and meet with the city administrator if you want to prepare for the meetings.
Okay, so that brings me to my probably biggest question.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon?
Your biggest one.
That's, yeah, well, for this 1 minute here, yeah.
D bullet point 2.
You did such a great job of, jeez, I guess, my background has been that, you're only a board member with an agendized meeting. And other than that, you're really not a board member and you really should refer to, in my case, superintendent or the city manager if you have a question, or you can bring it to council and council can talk about it. It's not that I haven't been approached. We all have and we try to respond and give answers. And I think it speaks to our relationship with the city manager. I mean, are we empowered? No, regardless if there's today we are because we're city council, but are we city council members to the point where we can give direction, Doug, other than during city council council meetings?
No,
Okay.
there are a few exceptions to that, but obviously when you're serving on different boards, you can get directed. When you're not technically sitting as a council member, you may be, anyway, so there's that. I think everything we were talking about, the way that we've interpreted like some of the agenda setting and stuff like that, and there's some directions given separate and apart from the regular meeting. And it just depends on how you want to handle that, right? So outside of that though, there's really no direction giving other than the mayor has the ability to call a special meeting, but that's in state statute. So the mayor can call a special meeting, the administrator or the city attorney can call a special meeting. And 3 of you can get together, call a special meeting without it being a Brown Act violation. Because you're always allowed to meet for Brown Act for purposes of meeting scheduling, you just can't get into the substance of the conversation.
So it's not, I don't think I have an opinion one way or another whether or not the mayor should help with the agenda, but really we go through an agenda setting as an item on our agenda at the end of the meeting, and we can say, hey, I'd like to see this brought to the council's attention, or I'd like to see that. In actuality, I forgot to ask for something, but I didn't feel it was my place to go and say, hey, let's add it now, Rebecca, because I didn't feel I was a council member other than that, Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening when we met. I mean.
Yeah, so I'll push back a little bit on that.
Go ahead.
I really do think that you're a council member 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, I'm sure.
And I say that because, as we're currently constituted, if you want something on the agenda,
Right.
I guess this is something where you guys can give direction again individually. If you want something on the agenda, you have to tell us that you want something on the agenda, and then we're required to get it on the agenda. That's something that belongs to each and every
Okay.
single one of you.
Okay.
And like I said, I think that I want to give deference to the position. In a lot of ways, this is a full-time position. It's not you just show up in a meeting, you get hit up.
No,
grocery store.
Are we supposed to make that request publicly? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Okay, so if we have that item now.
We need to change that rule.
Well, we're going to talk about agenda because we do have the future agenda item now where we are all requesting at the next meeting or at a future meeting.
Right.
If we have a desire to have something added, do we wait till the next meeting to ask for the future? Or, do you see what I'm saying? Do we need to make that request publicly, or can we call up on a Tuesday before the next meeting and say, hey, can I get something on the next agenda?
As it stands right now, you can do the latter. Now, whether or not it can actually get put on the.
It doesn't have to be the next
Right.
meeting.
But
But
it stands within a reasonable amount.
Right, because I'm like you, I was walking downtown and I was like, oh, I forgot,
Yeah.
I need to
Is
get
it
an
too late?
update on this,
Right.
and is it too late to ask? So
Right.
I'm glad you brought
Right.
that up.
So I don't, and unless Rebecca has a preference, I don't particularly have a legal preference for it. But I do think that whatever the way you want to handle it should be memorialized.
It's like, I know I'm not gonna be at the next council meeting,
So what good would it be on
so what,
that one?
if it's just because I can't bring it up, if it's in a public meeting, but it's something that I feel like the public would wanna know and have an update
The
on.
flip side of that is you want to wait a month to be able to make your
Yeah,
request.
Exactly,
You
no,
know?
I don't.
Right.
So there's pros and cons to each.
Right,
I know a lot of councils that say council can only put something on the agenda. It's a restriction on yourselves. And that comes from this idea of greater transparency, right? And then, it's never happened here. It seems like I'm saying that a lot today. It has happened in 2 of my other cities. I won't say the names on this one.
Thank you.
Where council members have put something on the agenda and maybe they've been a little bit abusive in the exercise.
That's
of
my
that authority. Or it has been executed strategically right before election. And so,
That makes sense.
and so, again, not here, but part of my job, I view, is giving you reasons why other cities do what they do, so that you can take that into consideration and figure out how you want to handle it. Because just because it hasn't been a problem today, doesn't mean it won't be a problem tomorrow.
So for me, I like that you have to do it at the council meeting. I like that idea. And then, but on the flip side, I understand if you miss a meeting, you may have to go a month. But why can't somebody email that in and Rose can
Yeah.
read it, right?
Well,
Could,
and I would say you talk to me.
right, or either,
Because sometimes what'll happen is one of you will contact me and unbeknownst to you,
You're
Sorry.
the
working on
other
it.
people have also contacted me,
Yeah.
so there's a common thread.
Right.
Or there's like a rumbling out in the public, and so it's probably a good time to do an update. And so you're probably not the only one.
And the
So-
times that I've made a request, you've often said, yeah, but that's not gonna be the next meeting, we're working on it for the second meeting in March or something like that, so it's already in the works, but.
So I would say, contact me, because ultimately, I'm probably the one that is either gonna have to put it together, I'm gonna have to work with staff to put it together, and then we have to figure out how that fits
We don't know your
in the agenda. If we have a ton of stuff on that agenda, then we might need to push it off to the next one. Some things are real quick to be able to put together, and other things take time, so.
Yeah.
When you go to hybrid, hybrid might be that you can make the request, but then Rebecca has to read it at the meeting, and it can't be heard until it's been read at the meeting.
See, all those seem very restrictive.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
But no,
Unless it's been a problem that I'm unaware of.
yeah, I just need to know protocol. And what you're saying is the protocol is as a council person, if I forget to say something at a meeting, I could talk with Rose or Rebecca and say, could we consider that?
So, yeah, so the only exception to that rule would be, so Rebecca would be in charge of or oversee 98, 99%. The only part that I would be in charge of is anything that relates to her specifically, or in the alternative, anything that is legal in nature that she doesn't already put on her own, right? So, because the reality of it is, even though I'm the city attorney, Rebecca runs, and I'm putting everything under Rebecca, so I don't want Rose to feel bad. But when I say Rebecca, I'm saying Rebecca at the top of the pyramid, everything underneath her. Rebecca is in charge of, even in the legal stuff, probably 80 to 90% of the stuff that's even within the city attorney's purview, because most of it's gonna be like risk management related or stuff like that. She's the primary contact. I'm just there if something goes wrong, right? Or, and if she and I ever have a disagreement about a legal component, then I trump her from the legal component, just like anything that's not legal, she trumps it. Right? Now, I have never had it happen, even with city managers in Sonora, that I had a very, not the best relationship with. I have never, ever had any issue with agenda setting.
Okay.
So, and I will say, I've only had one city manager in my entire career that I've ever had challenges with.
Okay, are we moving on?
You guys are good?
So jumping down on, oop, you got something, Rebecca?
Go ahead.
I have on city attorney,
Mhm.
it says the city attorney attends all council
That's
meetings.
what I.
And I don't know that you're always, so I think maybe it should say some or
I
whatever.
think maybe change it to as council deems necessary.
Yeah.
So it's,
Or just as, I think just as.
needed.
Well, it does say as deemed necessary.
but it refers to other meetings.
Yes,
At the request of council as
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah, I guess if we say, well, it's in meetings of the city council or other city
Special.
committees as deemed necessary. I think that's the easiest way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the easiest way of dealing with it.
So that means Tom won't always be here, is what you're saying?
No, I think we're just leaving ourselves.
We're leaving us,
Okay.
we're being flexible, because right now it's saying attends all
Prescriptive,
meetings.
Okay.
if you only have an A and a B and they're about nothing.
I mean, honestly, sometimes they're just meetings like, I've called Rebecca up, I'm like, we've got proclamations and like
Yeah.
some other like.
What's the point?
Do you
Yeah.
really need,
Right.
do you need somebody here? And inevitably the answer is always no, right? So, and I think that, this is always going to fluctuate. This is going to be, our attendance is always going to be dictated by two things. What's on the agenda and the personalities of both the public and the perceived that we're new to there. So I think that my position will constantly evolve, whereas the administrator's position, as it relates to this, will not.
And sometimes it'll even be where we could have an item on the agenda. And it just may be controversial or political from the public's perspective. But having the attorney there helps, I guess,
Deal with the issue.
deal with the issue and be a buffer for council. So it's not, council isn't letting us, it's, he's not letting go.
He's the fall guy.
Yeah.
We know.
I love throwing.
That's why everybody loves me. So everybody loves attorneys, right? So, and I think the other thing is, like obviously, that whenever we get a new mayor, first couple of meetings, we like to be here because we just want to make sure the meetings go smoothly and stuff like that. You guys were both pre-dialed, but it's just as a safety net. So
Okay, where are we at now?
I think we're done with this section unless you guys want to talk more about the role of the city attorney or the administrator. The administrator is responsible for all the day-to-day stuff. My purview is on the legal side. We each, again, it doesn't say this here, but we each have the ability to put stuff with our respective areas on the agenda, just like the mayor does, or through council member. Well, council member.
Just get the gender correct.
Yes.
Yes. It will be gender appropriate.
And then roll of
Emergency, roll in emergency, item D. Anything there?
So this is just where I kind of talked about, I think mayors are kind of default, small town, it's really reflective. I gave you the example of what happened in Sonora and why it happened. It was enough of an issue that we decided to, because of the day-to-day, that we changed it to the city administrator. I don't really care, but like I said, I do have a specific instance where it was an issue being unelected.
Because they were on vacation.
Yeah, they're on vacation. You guys have lives and you're not always here. And we just mean it would fall to the vice mayor and stuff like that. And we got to flush.
That's what I was wondering is, should we do a backup? I mean, it by nature, it would be vice mayor if mayor.
If you're gonna do the elected, it needs to be a backup. Yes. You need to have a backup. And you need to have, you gotta go through all three layers, which is, it's the same thing on a meeting. Mayor, vice mayor, and then a majority draw straws
On the emergency, or you're talking about in general?
in general.
Okay.
So, but it already has mayor and vice, and then administrator falls in next, right?
Yeah.
I would be vice chair.
Right.
Oh, you would be vice chair. in this.
That's what I see. It hits mayor first and then city
Then city
administrator here is vice chair. And then if you couldn't get a hold of them, then I suppose it would go to
Vice mayor?
you.
Yeah, we just gotta lay out at least three
So,
levels.
yeah, and so the only time I've seen this where it's been really important, was during so Butte Fire, federally
Mhm.
declared immediate, response.
Yeah, like that.
At like, it has to happen right then and there. And those, people that are coming out from the federal and state agencies, they just, all their correspondence was going to like the board chair. They didn't care who the county administrator was, they didn't care who was an OAS, it was to the board chair. And so it would be similar where their correspondence is going to the mayor, like that's just their protocol. So what we've done, and then subsequently at the county, we did this too, is that Calaveras Form 130, and it lists out by title who is responsible. So then we just have that piece of paper, and we just hand it over.
Mhm.
But
Which is why you need to be the vice chair.
which is why I have to be, right, so.
So, sound like you guys want to leave it the way that it currently is, and we'll just add a third component in case one of those two people are not available.
And then we have a plan. The
Yeah.
city emergency plan. Okay. appointment of advisory
We
board.
need to
planning
take
commission.
out the museum.
Commission.
Yeah.
Museum
So
commissioners.
museum commission
Do we have
should go
anything else
away.
on the planning?
We only have planning commission, correct.
We don't have
But
anything.
we also
And we need to
discussed
add to fire.
today, and you're saying that it needs to be appointed, like listed out there that those two terms are coming up.
Well, like,
Whereas it doesn't say here that it needs to be legally posted, and it doesn't say on that 17.85.030. Cause we have clerk and broader are up, their term is expiring on the 30th. So we were discussing it earlier
Of April?
of June.
Oh, June,
June.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so, we haven't like put it out there in the paper that their term's expiring, so if anybody else wants to, put in for that planning commission, and then Amy today goes, don't we need to put it in the paper? And I looked at Amy, I'm like, you've never done this before, so why are you changing it now?
No, because it blew up the last time. So council directed staff,
Yes.
council directed staff
I
going
recuse
forward, it
myself.
absolutely needs to be,
Who did it blow up with?
Because we didn't get anyone for the longest time on that last.
We didn't get anybody because, so Moncada's term expired, it was posted, that's all it was.
Right,
When a term expires and we know he's not wanting to be on there,
Right.
then I get it, it needs to be posted. So we can get people to apply for it.
and we talked about it, I think it was even the time before that, where it doesn't matter if that person wants to come back or not, that we were going to post it broadly so that.
So then we need to incorporate that then.
Yeah, so we can incorporate that procedure if that's what you guys want to do. So.
Always
How many days
solicit.
prior?
Always
60 days
Always
prior.
solicit whether it's a renewal of a term or they're running.
For 90, say 90 or 60, what do you want in there?
We're at that 60 point, right, May and June, so,
60
60 it
days
is.
prior, 60 days prior, the
Yeah.
city will notify of upcoming
compliant.
terms.
yeah,
And it sounds like you're wanting posting and newspaper.
correct.
Mhm.
Advertise, whatever.
Yeah,
Website,
Cause I know we do social media.
yes.
And the post office and all that.
So you guys have really funky terms, 3-year terms. I have nobody who does that. I don't know what the reason that you do it, like,
Let's change it to 2.
No,
should be 2 or 4.
Let's do
I
2 or
think
4.
we'll look at museum.
I was gonna say,
No,
Planning commission is 3.
Planning is 3.
oh, it does say it there.
If we, I
Yeah.
No,
don't know
that's
why you
weird.
do that.
Why
Yeah.
don't we just do it for 2?
I don't-
Maybe
why
we
don't-
get more people that
Well,
would
we
want
need to make
do
the
it.
uniform too, and the term it says serving 2 years, but then each one defines.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All appointed shall.
If we limit it to
shall be
serving
limited
two
to
two-year
serving
terms,
two
yeah.
2-year terms.
Do you want to?
We gotta get rid of that because Brooke is in the.
Yeah, we should.
Give it a term.
There should be term limits.
so there's no terms?
This
And,
is.
so no, look,
There's no term limit.
What's that?
I don't think that this has ever been approved.
Okay.
No, this
Yeah,
has
maybe.
been-
Has it?
it has, yeah, like right after it started.
Did it?
Yes, in 21.
Is that what we had 2 Herndons on the council?
Okay, so,
It says right there.
So let's scratch.
Oh,
Yeah, we're just gonna.
that goes in here apparently.
no term limits, but do I hear 2 years? or-
2-year term, within a 2-year. People can get in and out as,
2.
I mean, 2 years is not an eternity.
So no term limit.
Beginning, that's a count.
I'm only thinking,
And we should do calendar.
because it's hard to get somebody.
I know, but if somebody's got
It
a, I know.
was like a commitment.
That's a
Or is it
commitment.
commitment?
That's,
And then.
I could maybe get people for 2,
Now,
Yeah.
4s.
given that the
Well, it's
term
short
is
enough that you're
ending
like, okay, I'll do
I
it.
think 3 is like too long.
No,
I
so
think
this
people
first
don't
time
do
we'll
it.
just have them serve through. We
So
can
they
extend it.
do a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a quarter extra. Could be 2-year term.
Yeah.
Well, a quarter of a new term. Maybe, I don't know what that amount of 3 years is. You know, I'm not that.
So,
That's why I was like,
so when you come forward, if you're appointed, you serve a 2-year term. Right? So you would finish your current term, and then if you so chose,
And then do it on a calendar basis instead of fiscal year basis.
Yes.
So what we just talked about is the.
Just like
So
our,
everything, yeah, uniform.
yeah,
maybe.
make it all at the same time, so we're all doing the same, yeah.
Like I said, it's just weird, so.
Oh, I know, I'm
I
okay with that.
agree.
so Doug, I thought this was a section, and I don't remember in my notes coming across it. I'd like us to talk about if we as council folks all want the same committee like all hazards. These guys all want to be on all hazards.
I'm coming after
Just
you.
dying.
You've showed so much enthusiasm and excitement. I want it.
I think there needs to be a process committee for, as we appoint, I mean, Caroline made a point that, there should be a rotation. I think we're.
Like an approval process, you want?
No, we have an approval. The board, the council appoints and approves.
Yeah.
But if there's, should there
There's
be
3 people wanting to be on one
One.
board.
one board?
And it's
Or
only 2 sheets.
should there be a rotation? And part of me goes, if that 3 people want to be on one board, then, do we do seniority? Do we vote as a council? How have you seen it done if there's so much?
Always in the vote of the council.
We voted
Oh,
at council in January.
Okay, so, but I think we need to include some language in there about commissions.
Yeah, I'm looking for that too. I don't know if it's.
I thought it was,
So the way it's currently situated is that any of you can make a recommendation or a motion for somebody to approve somebody, or 2 people, one, so for vacancies, and then they get the second, and then you can vote on that motion. It's all motion based right now.
right, but I would like it in the handbook, just if we could spell it out.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Are they in here? Are they listed?
Despite the way that
Rebecca?
it is purporting to be used, it's really,
No, it's silent.
it's silent on all the stuff, all that stuff got stripped out, except for the council.
Okay, so if we could do something, I would appreciate
It's
it.
in all right there.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
We just need to have that in there. 'Cause they
So
only
maybe
need to
under
put it in your
E.
Planning and,
In museums, so maybe we add
So
COG, maybe we add
well, I think
LAFCO.
you just add all
As
other.
committees
All other
as needed or whatever.
Committees.
And then talk about if there's limits, term
Oh, and
limits.
here, like, so chapter 14 kind of goes into a little bit, planning commission, museum commission guidelines,
Only the
And-
two.
but only.
All
those
appointees
two.
and any other board, commission, or commission.
Shall
be
be
limited.
limited.
We're getting rid of that. Okay.
Commercial.
Can you do that search?
What's the committee?
Yeah.
But I think the issue is, it's almost like it's like defining what the commissions are going to do. But these aren't the only ones. Correct.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I just don't have the list of. You and I we can go. I'll just need you guys to give me that. Oh, we got
Should be in here somewhere.
Ad hoc committees, that's not what
Okay,
Okay.
So
then
check-
we can do that.
yeah, chapter 3, why don't you guys do just this section? and then-
Yeah.
Well, that's not-
Okay, so chapter 3, page 6.
Okay.
Council administrative support, so request for research or information. So A is generally okay. I think we need some language on legal questions, because I think it raises questions like conflict of interest and stuff like that. A lot of people don't wanna, if they have a conflict issue, they don't even want anybody else to know that there might be a conflict of issue. So I just need to tweak it so that there's a little bit of flexibility.
I have no problem saying, hey, Tom, this agenda item's coming up I think that's what he's doing for.
No, he is, but the way it's currently written is everything has to go through at least it infers that everything has to go through the administrator. And while Rebecca has never said, no, you can't talk to that person, in a different situation, it can get kind of weird.
Right.
Are we talking about A or B? Sorry.
A.
Okay.
I think we need to talk about B. I don't think the city manager should be talking with
No, I have a note. Can we change that to attorney?
or let the mayor do it. The mayor shouldn't even do it. That's a crazy thing to
No,
have
city
put in
If
there.
there's a perceived or inappropriate action by a council member,
It's crazy.
they're supposed to come to me.
You're supposed to chew on it.
Well,
And then I'm supposed to deal with it.
Yeah.
Mhm. I'm supposed to call them in a room.
so
Can you do that?
How that was.
So here's how I suggest that we handle this. Because this has actually happened. Again, I'm not gonna tell you the city on this one.
It starts with.
Sounds like,
You probably do know which one I'm talking about. So I think the best way to do it is to put both the administrator and the city attorney jointly. There's some good reasons to put that based off of past experience. But ultimately, it should go back to council, right? With the
To full
exclusion of
council.
the person who's involved. So, just as an example, like let's say that you had somebody, and this part has never happened, so let me be very clear that this is not what I was alluding to. But let's say somebody had sexually harassed somebody, was a council member.
Right, that'd be my vote. If somebody's
Right.
yeah, sure, then she's the go, yeah.
Well, it's not because it was the administrator, but let's just say as an example, someone doesn't. Well, it might not be able to make it to a council meeting before somebody has to talk with them and say like, you know, you need to knock this off and like knock this off now, right? Because it could be groping, it could be a lot of things. So I think it should be something, since it involves a council member, I think it should involve the two people who you guys appoint. So I think it should be something that we jointly handle. Or depending on the nature of it, it should just be me, because if I involve the city administrator, well, so now I'm thinking about this out loud. So I think it should be both of us or me as determined by the city attorney, right? And the reason I'm saying me.
Can't be mayor, because what if it's me?
Well, the reason, because it has to be with, this is only things involving one of the five of you.
Right.
Or once we expand it, like a planning commissioner or something like that. The reason I say that is that there may be a discussion between me and Rebecca and say like, hey, look, this is something that's really bad. We need attorney-client privilege. If you're involved, we may break down attorney-client privilege. I need to keep you out of this.
Okay.
And that has happened.
So, or.
Not on council issues, but on other issues.
And or?
Right? So, no, I would think it'd be, or just the city attorney if, in my discretion.
At the discretion of the city administrator?
Or
city
Attorney.
So Doug,
because it's really a privilege question, right?
have you ever had a situation where someone has pending charges against, a city council person has had pending charges against them?
Yes.
You probably know where I'm gonna go with this.
Yeah, the same last name as me too.
Oh,
I was in the newspaper as Jesse James White,
oh,
right? Oakdale. Pending felony drug charges against him.
so is he still a council person until he's,
Until the felony.
until he goes through court?
Innocent until proven
Yeah,
guilty?
and so he still can sit on council, that was one, he still can sit on council and
Until the felony conviction goes through.
that's same as.
Or what if it's something that involves like behavior that you like,
I can't kick you off.
don't they like leave on paid administrative leave or
Not
something?
council,
Not a council person.
No?
No.
you have to get a restraining order.
Okay. I would
So-
have thought that like administrative paid would have stepped down.
You know, and I don't remember reading in this, can a council sanction other council members?
You cannot, so, no, not really.
Okay,
So can you take money away from them? No.
no,
Can,
No, yeah, what do you mean?
meaning, because you guys get like, stipend.
yeah,
I don't think you guys get rich off of it, but,
Because you were elected.
you're not allowed to take that away from them and you can't unelect them, right? So,
You can recall them, you can,
but we
so we'll get into
can't,
this. So the only thing that you can do as a council, because recall is not council
Yeah.
initiated. The only thing that you can do as a council is reprimand, censure, or.
I think you're thinking censure.
censure, yeah.
what about a vote of no confidence?
That's a censure.
Okay.
So there's three of them, reprimand, censure, and, there's one more. I'm seeing my notes.
And a censure would
Well, you can
take
get
them
those
out of
order, but
their seat?
that's different.
A censure takes that council member out of their seat or just,
It makes the public know you've done something bad and we're mad at you because you did something bad.
but they can still show up every other
And is it
Tuesday
just-
and
And I've had that.
and still have a vote?
Censured for just a specific topic or speaking to certain people, or what is
It can be anything.
so they can vote on everything but whatever? No, or you can.
It just goes
you can- Or
public
they
if you're
just sit
mad at
there, like how does that work?
It's like a conflict, they'll have to walk out of the room, then you bring it back in the room and then you read the findings to them against them.
just saying, we're not happy with this council person, they did this, and the four of us are not happy with.
I've only had this happen a couple of times.
That's pretty extreme.
One
It would
time,
have to be.
council member tried to kill another council member.
Oh, well, that sounds like a restraining order.
Yeah, no, that happened too. Yeah, that happened too.
So what happens if I
It's really interesting.
I'm the same every day, something new.
So what happens if I successfully were to get a restraining order against another council person? They can't come within, what is it?
Judge won't hold that up. So what,
They'll
so,
attend virtually.
so I'm gonna say, right now, with Zoom, the court will have them attend virtually, so you're exactly right. Prior to that,
Yeah.
the judge would not let me, because this is the case that I just talked about, this is Sheree Lesnar from Police Matters. The judge made one, ordered her, she had to set at the other end away from the other one. And to add the dynamic to it, the guy who was mayor at the time, who she made the
Threat.
threat against, his dad was an elected official in Chicago and actually been killed for political reasons.
Oh.
So he's particularly sensitive to it. So now I can say this all because it's all been discussed in
Right,
public.
it's open, right.
So this is not like me breaking any kind of attorney-client.
Like metal detectors when you enter.
Modesto Beat did a whole series of articles on it.
Wow.
But those are, but because your guys' this is pre-Zoom and pre-COVID, and because your guys' position is considered to be so sacrosanct, the judge wouldn't grant the restraining order. He's like, look, you've got a cop in the audience, you've got, she's an elected official, she's allowed to perform her elected official functions. Again, today, the judge would give the order, you have to make provisions for them to apply virtually. Of course, they have to square that off with the law. But I think that under a court order, we would be able to do it.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID is different.
Pre-COVID, there was a issue with a board in our county and she was not allowed to physically come to the board meetings, but she could call in. So she would call in.
Gotcha. Great. Okay, so are we done with inappropriate actions, item B?
Unless it's something else you guys want to talk about.
The only thing I would say on request for research or information, and I haven't experienced this here, but I've experienced it
Now
elsewhere.
you're doing it.
I know. Is I would get, or staff would get requests for information that was like really arduous. I mean, it would be a ton of work.
Involving, yeah.
And so, those are types of things where I would prefer, because it's taking work effort away from everything that we're trying to do, that full council consider if there's a material work effort.
So we could change the part where we do it at the meeting, so requests for future agenda items could also be requests for research or
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
So staff time is too great, you need to go to full council.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you just make sure that the full council feels like it's a correct
It's a
signature.
thing that's worth it.
So the way I would handle this is the way I talked about the hybrid, Calvin, is I would handle it by saying, they can make the request directly,
Right.
and then Rebecca announces it if she, and then.
And at that point, you let them know, hey, that's pretty involving, that could take a month or two. I'll bring it up at the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay,
Is that it?
More?
are we on city?
We're on,
7, on page 7, city finances.
So I think B and C can just refer to the travel reimbursement policy that we just.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the never have.
Okay,
So that'll look good.
so state law recently changed in the last year, allowing you guys to get paid a little bit more money. So the question is, do you want to touch that or not?
what do you mean?
Yeah, how much more?
Go ahead.
You mean because it's a minimum wage? What?
No.
2 cents an hour, you figure it out, an hour.
This is basically a way to violate the per hour.
When we were giving.
Because you guys don't make anywhere near minimum wage on a per hour basis.
No.
So again, the question is whether or not to touch it or just to leave it where it's.
What did state law change? I didn't even know.
It
We
allowed
looked at
for more
this.
expansive ways and fairly regular increases.
Well, if this handbook or policy, what are we calling this? Policy book, if it's fluid, if it's gotta work its way, then we should reference state law. and then
Yeah, or-
everybody
or-
vote on it every year.
Yeah, same.
If that.
I guess what I'm saying is, do you want to allow it to reflect new law, or do you guys want it to stay
As
exactly the way it is?
Mhm.
I don't care if this is just the time to address the issue.
It's been $300 for like 20 years, hasn't it?
No, at one time it had medical.
Yeah.
At one time, city council, and I don't know when that was, how
I
long.
don't think I
it
can
was.
get medical back.
No, I'm just saying, that's the only change I know that got rid of it. So. I think it should reference state law and not be capped at 300.
So I've heard two different opinions.
I don't know if I feel comfortable voting for that. It feels self-serving.
But it's, all you're doing is referencing the state law, you're not
You're not
actually.
voting on it.
setting-
We're not voting. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So
you
it said
So that's what I'm saying.
so for the future, it can be
Okay,
changed.
okay, all right, if that's the case.
I'm fine with it, or, you know, state law or something like that.
Yeah,
that-
You can't have one of the two, so.
You gotta have one of the,
So it's
either it's
$300.
$300 or it's $300. So it has the potential of being,
It can be revisited next year, so.
But if they go with state law,
We
have to
it's
change
going to be whatever state law.
Whatever
says.
state
Yes,
law says.
exactly.
Oh, I see.
How is
you can
it-
still cap it, but I don't know what the point of going to state law is.
If you're gonna cap
You're
it,
gonna cap it anyways.
that's
I
right.
think then you can pay it.
Is state law mileage too?
I believe so. I think we're required.
CCWD gets paid mileage
that's
for
our
that board, for all their driving to
Well, it
meetings.
depends on.
No, not to meet with constituents.
Not to meet with constituents, but to meet,
Yes, they do to
to go to their meetings. Yeah, that's what I said.
I'm good with $300.
I am.
Me too.
I'm fine with 300.
So
But I-
leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
I just think it should be revisited and you should probably bring that up when we're not sitting here anymore and the next council or whatever comes in, because.
Well, we're gonna review this every 2 years, right?
My recommendation is every year.
I think every year.
It won't be as arduous, I know.
The 5 items, these are the things you need to be addressing.
I
All right,
am curious
next.
though, so what is, because you just.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
You said something about it, what is it?
Oh, it would double.
$1,200.
You guys are- No, it's not
I'm just scared
$1,200.
as shit. I'm
Like that, and then we have regular increases of like 8% or something.
Oh,
Holy.
Every year,
Holy
state
man.
law did that?
I mean, it's been really restricted for a long
City-
time. You gotta realize that some cities
Or big?
have difficulty getting council members, in because it's so low.
I don't think that's
And while bigger cities, you know, it can be a lot more time consuming even than this. So.
So,
Yeah.
It's a volunteer thing.
It's public.
Are we on to overview then,
Right.
on
Yeah.
page 8?
We're on page 8.
Council communications. So this one, it just needs to be all reworked and incorporated in other places. Like where we talk about confidentiality issues should be on a different section, where we talk about local ballot measures should be on a different section. Speaking for the city needs to be kind of part of the earlier discussion when we talk about administration. So this is just kind of like what I would call reorganization, first and foremost. I mean, the key here is, you know, what you need to do when you speak for the city. You can say, well, I voted for X. And this comes from a Turlock example. So Turlock had a lot of problems because the mayor was in an overwhelming minority. And then she would go around and she would just talk about her position, and she left people with the impression that that was the city's position, when in fact she'd been outvoted 4-1, right? And so we kind of came up with a protocol after councils got pretty upset about that, and it created a lot of confusion in the community.
Right.
Of like, whenever you talk, you can only say what your personal opinion is. But if your personal opinion differs from
The vote?
a vote, right? Then you actually have to say that council voted. You have to disclose that council voted a certain way. So the advice that we usually give is you give your opinion and then you say what the council said, either whether it supports you or it doesn't support you. So there's just no confusion on where that line is.
Or do you just tell them, watch the video? It's public, it was.
No, I think we want to just leave people with the
Yeah.
impression of what really happened. Like this is my opinion. I voted this way. Either
Council
and
decided.
you just
The council
so either a
disagreed.
majority of the council votes is
With
supports
me
or
or?
what about
and
things
it's
that
only
aren't
when
voted
we're
on?
actually taking a vote on something.
Yeah, exactly. So what about things that aren't voted on?
Then you
But,
can always talk about what your opinion is anyway.
right,
I mean, I wouldn't get in the habit of while it's not illegal, I would not get the habit of projecting publicly how council, you think council's gonna go.
No.
Right, so I just think you say, this is where I'm at.
And that's under speaking for the city?
I'm speaking for the city.
So you're gonna make some changes to that when you bring it back to us?
I mean,
Is that what,
I'll switch it up a little bit. It's fine, it's just in the wrong spot.
you like the way it's written, but you're gonna move it
I
somewhere?
largely like the way that it's written. I just will move it to where we're talking
Gotcha.
about like mayor and vice mayor and council.
Okay.
Similar to correspondence.
We can address that.
Yeah, so on the correspondence, so we get asked a lot for, support letters from other agencies. So it used to be, they would just come in, Rose would get, you know, whoever the mayor is at that time, their signature, and I said, I think these are all have to go to council. And so now we require all of them to go to council, to have a discussion. So we are adhering to this now, but, I just wanted to point out, this is why they're all coming to you guys.
But we also, like, Jen will come in and sign, and then we bring it after the fact.
Some of what's happening also is we
Late.
get it
Right.
after,
Friday.
after everything's already gone out for the agenda. So and of course, it's, if I don't get this, I
By
can't
Friday,
put it
I
in
can't,
by
yeah.
Friday, I can't get it into my grant, blah, 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 whatever. So,
I don't know how you deal with emergencies unless if you want to create an exclusion that if the city administrator and mayor both agree, then do it. It should be two people. I worry about it being the mayor and the vice mayor because it could be different than kind of operationals, you know? So you could do that. I mean, I have seen an exclusion for people who want to write a recommendation for kids for college. Because like, for instance, the military academies require somebody to like official
right.
to recommendation. So I've seen exclusion for that. So it's just a question of how you guys want to do it. Do you guys want any exclusions for this policy? I would say as closely adhering to this as possible is advisable. So it actually takes a lot of pressure.
When you wanna stay away from political endorsements?
right,
You cannot
you can't do.
But that,
you can state what your position is, but you're always endorsing in your individual capacity.
not as mayor or.
You're not endorsing
you're
as
just
mayor.
Right.
You are
this
Jen
person.
Herndon, citizen of Angels,
Yeah.
or resident of Angels, who happens to be the mayor of.
Yeah, they're never gonna see that distinction.
I realize that the thing is,
State that.
but you just don't want.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
So,
I as mayor,
Right.
going back to something that Rebecca just shared, the ed code would allow an agenda item to be placed on the agenda, especially if it was an emergency situation and action needed to be taken prior to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Is that the same in the municipal code, or should that be, no, so we don't have that power to add an agenda item because it's an emergency?
Yeah.
emergency power.
Emergency power, yes.
I mean, is
Or
it
if it's an urgency.
emergency, not emergency, or,
So there's a distinction though. So there are very, 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 emergency is a term that gets overused in the agenda context.
Right.
Because emergency, the standard is anything that could not wait 24 hours for you to call a special meeting.
okay,
Urgency item is what we commonly refer to as a special meeting. So and then all you have to do is notice that you have 24 hours to kind of do it, which is why sometimes you'll see funky little meetings where you have your regular meeting, but an hour before that, you'll have a special meeting because it came in too late.
But what about when something comes up and at the meeting, there's a way to add an urgency item to that if the majority of the legislative body approves it, you know what I'm saying?
I do, it's just that the standard is they can't wait for 24 hours.
Right.
These support letters, though, aren't emergencies,
They're
and
not.
they're not urgencies, so.
Because you can always do it 24 hours,
Yeah.
within 24 hours. So, again, if you want to create an exclusion, it could be for stuff that doesn't have any financial
Most of them are.
impact.
Correct.
For what?
Most of the issues is for planning. It's a grant that's been out for 2 months and we get the letter, the deed before it's due.
I mean, it's also one of those, I shouldn't say this on the check. You know, some rules are made to be broken. Sometimes if it's really important, you just break the rules and you kind of send it in. We're gonna lose $1 million.
Right.
If we don't do
Which is
this-
why we kind of allow her to, it's her decision at that time whether she wants to sign it, and if she has signed it, then we bring it back and we put it in the
As
correspondence.
correspondence.
So, but there
But that
has
could
been,
go sideways
yeah, it,
all of a
and
sudden.
we've seen the support letter go sideways, so
So
I don't know.
my recommendation is that if you're gonna do that, it requires, because I always look at council's policymakers and city administrator as day-to-day responsibility. If both the policy and the day-to-day can match, then, and you guys think it's of such importance that it can't wait till the next council meeting, then you guys can agree and then you could do it. So if you're gonna do an exclusion, that's why I would do it.
But didn't you,
This would be a new exclusion. I've never done this exclusion.
but didn't you establish a precedent, correct? I mean, not that everybody knows, but I mean, if you're signing one
I
letter,
get more floor planning because,
Yeah,
then you're gonna sign them all.
well, it's their discretion still, but.
I know.
And the default should be, it needs to go to council, but
and I do push that pretty hard, so, but there are times where it's like, I need it, yada, yada, and we just, the problem is it'll go to Rebecca, she gets inundated, and then by the time I find out about it, it's either, I've already pushed the packet, So, but we could at that point go, okay, let's just add a special meeting then at the end of the meeting,
yeah.
right?
we can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So,
For that.
do you want the exclusion, do you not want the exclusion?
I think the special meeting thing is easier without the exclusion. If there's something that's that time sensitive, and all of us, I mean, we have a 2-minute discussion, and we're all here, I like the special meeting idea. And then if you can pop in there for anything.
Okay.
And I'm assuming everybody has it 24 hours prior.
correct,
We
Very,
didn't have
I would
to-
assume very, very slim or less than 24-hour notice.
yeah.
Because otherwise it can be dealt with on correspondence.
Correct.
Or we're not, we're
It's
getting
gotta
rid of
be
it.
on the agenda.
So if it doesn't make the deadline for the agenda, it's gotta be a special meeting.
Special meeting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we at?
Confidential issues?
Yep.
So this just needs to be beefed up quite a bit. It doesn't talk about the fact that it's actually against the law.
big.
Yeah.
So, that, and then we probably, I probably put reference on here, isolation because you give birth to the civil grand jury or to AG or the DA. I've only had to do that one time,
Jeez.
Atwater, made the newspaper.
Ballot measures.
Not naming names.
Well, no, I mean.
I know, I'll just give you the background.
They had their closed sessions were always held in the back in a,
No, maybe
it wasn't on AD, but it was it's like the
Okay,
school room for your batch.
Oh, portable.
So like portable, they were portable. And I literally, as you're walking, there's a bathroom on the way to the chamber. It's a pretty much straight line other than that. So you go from the portable down this hall, by the police department, there's restrooms, and you go turn left and you go to the chambers. I went there, went to the restroom, and I was not in there a long time. And but the second that I got in, a reporter was asking me, told me just what had happened in closed session. I'm like,
Oh,
A reporter.
repeatedly, oh yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Wow.
So
So there was a
so
violation.
beef up D.
Beef it up and reference some violation language. Local ballot measures.
So local ballot measures, this is just another one that needs to be beefed up, talk about what you can do and not do when that line goes. We can do educational campaigns, we cannot do political campaigns.
So like
Can't use-
like the measure we just had, I was scared to say anything about it as me, but technically I could have said something as
As you as a
as me
citizen,
as a citizen.
yes. Who happens
As
to,
long as you clarify,
Me as a citizen on my own,
who happens to be a council member,
yeah,
right, yes.
yeah.
yeah, but then that's, the other aspect is staff as well for that measure,
Mhm.
right? What role are they taking? Should they not say anything?
No, staff, so
I'm just,
okay, so let me make a distinction. So let me make a distinction.
This is for elected officials.
yeah,
Well, no, it goes,
We're gonna
it should go to staff.
It should go to staff too.
So when we talk about ballot measures and we talk about endorsements, it's because the city hasn't taken a position on them as a city.
Right.
On a city-initiated ballot measure, you are in your official capacity able, that's the one time you can make an actual endorsement.
Okay.
In your actual official capacity.
Is for,
On a ballot
City
measure
and-
initiated by the city council.
Oh, gotcha.
That's right, the tax.
So let's say we went for a sales tax increase.
Obviously,
That's right,
we're
we
going
could.
for it.
Yeah, then, and that sales tax mayor, Jen is mayor, each of you as city council members, Scott as the police chief could make an endorsement of that item. The one thing, and the reason I say it is to cover staff, one of the things that we need to get into is you don't wanna, I've had a bunch of, and police chiefs in particular are sensitive to this because they get hit up quite a bit. Making outside endorsements on your behalf. So for instance, there'll be a lot of time in the sheriff's race that the police will cheat on. We'll get, I think, endorsements, the only one in Calaveras, but we'll get pressure to do the endorsement. Sometimes they don't want to do the endorsement, right? And so we want to get them to cover. So typically in
So
this
they can point to
document,
this and say, I can't.
say, I can't make endorsements in my official capacity except for city council sponsored ballot measures. He can still do it as an individual, right? Like, you know, but he can't do it as.
Okay,
Tony,
so you're gonna beat that up? F,
I-
state legislation and propositions,
It has to be council level
same thing, okay,
or in your individual.
as a citizen.
Yeah, so this is one of the ones where we get a lot of these through cities.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will have a ton of, letter
Yes.
supporting that legislative action. But again, those, I really make sure that those get agendized. Yeah.
Okay, so so we good on that one?
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about proclamations, because this is one that's actually received a lot of attention over it. And I have a variety of cities who've done a variety of different things. So my most recent one is on the Gaza-Israel war. You know, that Arcata got hit really hard and protested to take a position on. And we've had issues with the rainbow flag in a couple of the cities, and then we've had issues on what we'll call more social issues. Just the example I'll give, because I gave it before, was on celebrating Pride Month and stuff like that. So the question becomes on proclamations, whether or not you want to have any kind of limitation as it relates to them. You know, it can get a little bit dicey. You know, one of the things we've seen is people just saying, just solely within the jurisdiction pertaining specifically to the city of Angels and stuff like that, so that you're not taking political positions on the UN and stuff like that. And this has just changed over time. When I first started as a city attorney, I never worried about this. But this has become an increasingly complex, divisive issue, what you support and what you don't support, what flags you fly, what flags you don't. I just finished litigating whether or not the Earth flag has, Arcata voted to fly the Earth flag above the, US and state flag.
No.
We won the case and
Yeah, no.
But they really felt we're citizens of the world before we're citizens of any country.
Oh, jeez.
Get the philosophy behind it.
What's our current?
It's
Currently, we
generally anything. So
We
this,
just see it on the agenda and we say, oh, we're gonna consider this.
Well, the last one, honestly, they contacted me and I was like, yeah, let me do it. It was, yeah, it was.
Which one was that? The
Red House.
Oh, yeah, the
Red
red.
House.
Yeah,
And we
Yeah.
signed.
And the,
Can't wait.
so when you.
And the kindness. Cassidy.
I know, I have to say, we haven't done a lot of them, and in fact, I have kind of wondered, there's been several that the board, the county will do, and some of those, I've thought, man, that would have been appropriate for the city, like, for example, today, they, considered the Bret Hart, or gave an award, or, I don't know if it was a proclamation, but it was for the valedictorian and the salutatorian that are gonna graduate from Bret Hart, and I was like, well, Bret Hart's in city limits.
Yeah, but the girls might not be.
where they reside?
Yeah.
I just thought because it was at the school and they were students. So I guess my mind isn't clear on what should be here, what could be at both.
So anything right now, the question is, I bring it because this is when there's no issues and no conflict.
That's great.
It is the absolute best time to decide what you want your policy to be.
Yeah.
So the question is, do we leave it alone or do you want to have any restrictions at all?
The only thing I would think would be appropriate would be that it should have some kind of vetting before it makes the agenda. So that, no disrespect, but so that the city administrator or road couldn't just throw one on there that is way outlandish.
Could any of us do that?
Well,
I don't know. There needs to be a vetting.
Yeah, that's the thing. So,
So who is that?
like, if one of the council members came and said, you know,
We want the Gaza thing.
or like just, you know, I want to celebrate the color purple because I love purple and let's
Yeah.
do a proclamation of purple.
That was a good look.
Yeah, you
And
know,
Barney was purple.
but a council member has the right to bring that, right?
Absolutely.
Then it would come, it wouldn't be vetted
It would just be on the agenda.
because you're a council member. It would just be on the agenda and you guys can,
Yeah, but how often do you see a proclamation
Well,
get
Oh,
not, I had not seen that.
It's never been an issue here.
never been an issue,
No.
but
Nationally,
nationally, it's been, I mean, there's some real
And the
big.
people show up thinking that they're gonna get, the Red Cross people show up thinking it's all gonna be great, and then we vote it down and.
I don't know if there's a vote even, but it's, I don't even.
No, we vote before
We
we
vote for
acknowledge.
the proclamation?
Yeah, we vote before we read
Oh,
it.
we don't read it. We just do it.
Maybe we're supposed to.
Yeah.
So that's-
We need clarification because we don't.
Do we vote on the proclamation, or should we vote on it prior?
No, you
Because
have to vote on the
Red Cross, I don't think we voted to have,
We have.
We didn't
don't
vote on
vote.
kindness.
It says.
yeah, kindness
the
week.
Proclamation and we.
Yeah, we say congratulations.
Hereby proclaim whatever.
So let's, this is a good, actually, this is a good conversation, but I didn't think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
There are two different types. There are proclamations where you just read them, right?
Mhm.
And then there are resolutions where you take positions on things.
So
Okay,
the city of Sacramento,
so,
that it just blew up for like, what, a week?
Hmm.
Because their mayor wanted to pass that resolution.
Yep.
That was a proclamation, but it was a.
But it was a vote, it was a vote, because they wanted to actually put it on record as opposed to just getting
Right.
a piece of paper that was read. So
okay.
there are two types of what I'll call proclamations. Ones that have involved votes and ones that are just read.
So for me, the red, I'm
Yeah.
good.
I don't think we've had any problems.
And that would be like kindness week, right?
Right.
But proclamations for resolution, like Gaza Strip or something like that.
Is it?
I don't know. See, that's where's the distinction?
Does that require a vote?
I would
Does it
absolutely.
require a vote to fly a flag?
Nah, no.
Does it require a vote to celebrate Pride Week?
No.
Does
But
it
does it?
require a vote
It actually does take, it would require, Pride Week would require a vote.
Okay, I mean, like,
Okay.
how do we know?
I don't know
when
where
do we
that is.
decipher?
We have a flag. I don't know if we have a flag.
A flag policy?
No.
We should.
Hey, why don't you throw a flag policy in this thing?
Yeah, do that.
Should, because it's gotten kind of nuts out
I
there.
can see it's changing.
Well, no, I mean, I've had criticism because a lot of cities will fly the POA flag. And because it's, and there's a lot of people who have issues with it, not because of necessarily what it recognizes, it
But because what
symbolizes,
they want.
but because it's, well, if there's that, then it should be other things, or, and this has come up quite a bit, like, it should only be the American flag, and maybe an arcade flag. I mean, an Angels Camp flag.
So this is,
It's-
this is where it could become a problem. So our pole banners downtown, right? So for
Yeah.
right now, we will order pole banners. We will install the pole banners. They will be our pole banners. But if we opened it up
Hmm.
to other people to put pole banners up,
Hmm.
you open it up for everyone to put banners up. And they can
Whatever
put
they want.
whatever they want up there.
Yep.
And that has created a major issue. If we leave it closed off where it's only city
Our.
flags, it's only our city, and it's like, welcome to spring or.
Well, the other way you can get around it is you co-sponsor an event.
You
and then-
co-sponsor, and then it's ours,
Sure.
then we don't run into an issue. The moment we open it up where we allow others, we have to open it up for everyone.
Right, so if you
And
say the
that's-
Celtic Fair can use all these banner hangers, then you have to open it up to,
That's where
every
the flag
single-
policy would come into
Gotcha.
play.
gotcha.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons we don't do the prayer anymore, right? Because the second that you do the prayer, you have to open it up for every religion or non-religion to do their own.
Mhm.
And it just gets really confusing.
Well, you could be praying for an hour.
Yeah, the meeting would last.
I mean, we had the Satanist pagan guy who came around and did his job. You know?
Or should we just make it all, where we have to vote on all of them? And then it's just a vote, and it's either a
It's
pass
just,
or a fail.
it cleans it all up.
I'm just saying, you've never had anything controversial, but it really stinks when you do. And it's very, and I'll say the biggest damage is really done to the community that gets really divided on it. So the question is, do we just leave this the way it is because it's never been a problem, or are there tweaks that you?
And you're saying you can only do ones that only are in your city limits too, right?
That's one of the recommendations that we do.
Pertain to within, because the Red Cross is in my city limits, right?
Kindness Week,
Kindness Week,
happens in
yeah.
the city limits.
Right.
I mean, sometimes you do proclamations because someone turned 100.
I agree.
Did one for the girls' basketball team.
Yeah,
I
the
know.
girls' basketball team. I mean,
So I mean, at least then it shelters us a little bit, I guess. I don't know.
Or do we have, well, again, I mean, we could have any council member put anything on that they wanted, which we're good now, but I mean,
Mhm.
10 years from now, I don't know.
right.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, is like, what's the?
It's not today I'm worried about,
No,
per
it's the
se.
future.
But it could be right around the corner.
This can be changed every year too, so.
Yeah.
The majority
Yeah.
can change it.
Yeah.
Could we do a policy of if somebody contacts us and we bring it to council for approval before it actually?
Like our pre-agenda, or like our,
Consent agenda?
future.
Well,
agenda.
like on the Red Cross, she contacted me, I wanna say maybe a month and a half before. And I said, not a problem, we can work on it, just send me the info. However, if we had a policy, I could have told her, we have a strict policy, I need to take it to council
So
first
request for-
to get direction and approval from them.
But our future agenda item, we don't
No,
vote on that. Like
Correct.
Mike might say, hey, I'm thinking we need to do this.
Yeah.
And then we just say, and Alvin had a thought and Isabel had a thought. We don't,
So I think it would be treated, if
To vote on-
if you did this kind of thing,
yeah.
it would be treated, your future agenda items, it's the more expansive way that we talked about it, because we already talked about changing it for research and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It would be basically like a consent calendar. Here's your requests, and unless somebody pulls an item and asks for a vote on it, these are gonna all happen. Now, I will just tell you.
Oh, that's an interesting way to do it.
So I'll use my Gaza,
But we're not throwing
my
that
Arcata Gaza Israel example. That still means that this entire thing, room would be packed with people,
Right.
saying, you gotta, I mean, you're voting up and down on whether or not.
Right. It's still gonna be controversial.
Yeah. But you don't have anything, you don't have staff coming up with 5 different, I mean, I think that staff in Arcata came up with 20 different versions.
Oh.
And then in the city, the mayor and one city council member who's former mayor, had to get really involved in crafting something to actually put something that everybody could agree on, including the church. So, I mean, I will say that Arcata did a fabulous job of handling it.
Bravo to them. That's good. Yeah.
Because it actually got the Jewish community behind it. And it was more of a call for peace. But that's not where it started,
Of
right?
course not, yeah.
It was from the river to the sea where it started, right?
So, Mr. Lawyer, what do we do?
Well, you could do anything. This is just a strict, I'm just telling you my experiences, and you don't have a problem right now, and do you want to leave it alone, or do you want to?
I just don't think we can pre-vet it if it's a council
I
member
No, we
bringing
can't
it.
pre-vet it.
And so I like either it's on the
I think it
consent
needs to be
agenda or
voted
it's
on.
voted on before we do the proclamation.
I think it needs to be
I think it
voted
needs to be
on
voted on
before we do the
it.
proclamation.
There you go.
So I think then what you guys, and this will come up when we get more into the general, you should look at an expanded future agenda items, and you should be treating it going forward once you guys ratify this. Because we have to amend the municipal.
Do we
code.
vote and then give the proclamation, boom, boom,
Yeah.
at the meeting? Because I'm fine with that.
I would assume.
I just,
No,
no,
no, you can't do that.
You can't. We
You
have to
have
vote
to
on it.
vote
and
A
it's gotta
first
come back.
reading and a second reading?
oh.
So what about time then? Like with Kindness Week, we could be with Kindness Week.
we know.
We know when that is.
Uh-huh.
And so this Red Cross.
Yeah,
we're
Red
going to do-
Cross, they gave me at least like a month and a half. I wanna
Okay,
say
so
notice.
we could have done.
We could have.
You can also do it so that it only
You could have a
applies to
special
issues
meeting at
that
the
are
end
not
again, too.
recognizing, like,
You
individuals.
could do a special meeting at the end, just like we
Yeah.
talked about.
So if it's like a
It's time sensitive.
event or like Red Cross Month or something that we know is already designated, it wouldn't need to go.
Well, we could have an approved designate, a pre-approved designate. So I'd have, and sure, in different ways, you have a list of stuff that's
Yes,
really
Tony.
approved.
I like that idea. I mean, stuff that we've done in the past.
Mhm. You can still have somebody come in here and cause chaos on it, right?
Sure, I mean, we could do, I mean, we could with any item.
Yeah.
But,
But I'm just saying that this is, and this is probably, you would never think going through this that I would spend so much time on proclamations.
No, it
But
makes
it-
sense though.
But it has
I
been
can
probably
see.
one of the biggest hot
I mean,
topic issues.
that's the thing, can you put in here, if it's a political hot topic?
Mhm.
Anything
Yeah, of the-
non-confrontational.
Yeah, it's not
It should be non-confrontational.
And the reason like the board of supervisors at it guaranteed the high school reached out.
Reach out to them.
And so that's generally how we're even getting them. Someone's contacting one.
We don't do as much as the board does, but the board
Not at all.
covers everybody, right?
And,
So-
and then
how do they handle proclamations? Do they pre-vote on
I
them? Do they
wanna
get
say-
vetted beforehand
I wanna
through
say they did
something?
vote.
I always thought they
you'll,
voted.
you'll vote, but it's not like a pre-vote, like
Right.
reading one and then.
And then they each read them. Some council members have the proclamation that they supported and then they read it and it's their kind of
I don't
gift.
know.
Um,
I hate dragging out good proclamation people.
I think there's a way for us to write this.
Okay,
Okay.
you're gonna come up with that and we
The
appreciate
Red
it.
Cross and all this.
Yeah,
I want to just bang those out. but
Yeah, I don't.
I want to cover my butt just a
I know,
little
I
bit,
know.
too.
Well, we have to set a standard.
Because there's so much political stuff going on right now.
Okay, page whatever.
It only takes one person to move into town and it changes the dynamic. So.
No, for sure.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen, just in due time.
So conflicts of interest, we've already talked about this, we talked about the political reform act. This is
The
again more
one thing on the
reorganization.
political reform act, they did update the dollar amounts. Was that last year? Effective this year, effective last year? Now it's
No.
down to 250.
For what?
I thought it was always 250.
250 for.
Yeah.
With this 500 for
Oh.
economic interest.
Yeah, oh, for economic interest.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's this year.
okay,
So
so,
we just need to, we just.
and I don't know if
need
we just referred.
Where we at?
to- We just refer to the state.
Yeah.
Political
we don't have
reform
the
act.
requirement.
The state law changed and it lowered the threshold, so.
Of what, I'm
The
sorry?
2,000 or more?
Yeah.
You
So
know,
now
you
it's
can
like
receive
250.
It's like for.
Yeah. your form 100.
Oh,
Same thing with
it's 250 if we spend $250.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
So same thing with 1090 conflict. Again, I will just say my overarching thing is just an organization thing.
Okay.
So,
Page 11.
because then you have ex parte communications stuck in here.
What is it?
It's a weird,
Leave meetings.
it's a reference to it.
Okay, so where are we at now? We're only on page
We're
11?
on 11. It gets quicker though.
Except
Ex parte communications, this is an organizational thing. This should go when we're talking about mayor and stuff like that.
I have a note here. So I went through this book a long time ago, so I'm just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't even know what I wrote. Let's see, it says, there was something about property owned in proximity to a decision needed equal ordinance or question mark. That's a conflict of interest? Okay. Does it need to be spelled out or do we just say any conflict of interest?
So refer, should be refer to code and then consult your city attorney if you have any
Okay.
questions.
I think we had just talked about that at a council meeting, so.
When I was at my conference, this last week, they did bring up, ex parte communications, issues that some council's been having is use of cell phones and technology in the council meeting.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
There, people are worried
Oh,
about people texting each other during the council.
They're worried about the texting of each other.
Yeah.
Because I know
The
at the-
theory is that if you're texting while here, that can be public
Yes, that
record.
can be public
So if
record.
my son texts me after basketball and I
Yeah.
respond,
I'm at a
I need
council
to
meeting.
tell everybody that, yeah, I'm at a council meeting, I've been here
Because
an
I get
hour.
that
I think that that's being a little overzealous, like you still are your own person even when
Yeah.
you're at work.
Right.
But that's like saying when you go to the bathroom, somehow we have a workforce interest in it. And I was like, no, that's not the case. There's a duality to, you have two parts of your life. I think there's a lot of concern about staff texting you during a meeting, which candidly I've done during meetings. Like usually it's somebody forgot a motion or you know.
Oh. Don't forget, yeah.
or don't forget to do X, Y, Z like you're supposed to do. I think the biggest concern is council members texting each other on the dots. Or there's actually been an issue with members of the public texting council members. No, I actually have that issue in a couple cities. Where I have people in the audience trying to tell, sometimes it's, hey, we can't hear you, you're not talking clearly into the mic, and that's fine, right? Like, I have a council member who constantly is like, I just got a text from such and such saying you can't hear us on the mic. And I think that those are helpful, those are constructive, but then I'll also get members of the public telling people who aren't coming up, telling electeds, hey, you need to do this.
Persuade, yeah.
Wow.
So you're recommending to add some cell phone language?
No, I'm saying that that's what the issue is.
I'm just saying that is a topic that came up
Yeah.
at my,
What was the outcome of did they have a takeaway?
the attorneys from BBK said, you just should have it in your policy more clearly stating that you are not to be texting one another and you're not to be
that's
texting
fine.
members of the public,
That's fine.
inside or outside.
That's actually a good suggestion.
I think that's a fine suggestion, because I don't want to have to put my phone away. Sometimes my kids are.
Oh,
Text
yeah.
is good.
Oh, I use, yeah,
My
like, I
kids are
understand
like-
my kid from school, but
Yeah, and I gotta coordinate a ride home or because
Yeah,
they forget.
that's
and,
my
like, I
point.
can't.
my thing is I use my calculator a lot.
Oh, there's that too.
I'm always in
Punch
my
it a lot.
calendar.
Yeah,
Or in my calendar.
I'm always in my calendar.
So I'm fine. I mean, if anyone ever wanted to see my text
Right,
messages,
public
that's
record.
fine. I'd public record it. I don't care. But
But it's just now with
It's in there.
technology,
Okay.
it's changing, so, I mean, it's like, you can't say leave it in your car because
Yeah.
you're.
Well, then it's on your watch.
Right.
Okay,
So again, we get liability and training, it's just that you guys can create liability for the city with you. And the city does have liability, like I have a mayor, past mayor, who was at a League of Cities function. They were doing a tour of the city, and he was standing at the close to the sidewalk and got hit in the back by somebody's mirror. And it turned into a workers' comp claim.
Yep.
because he was on
He
city.
was on city day,
city time, yeah.
and he actually got hurt, so.
okay.
Somebody driving too close to the sidewalk. clipped him. So anyway, so there's.
Ethics training,
there's
there you
that,
have
and
it,
then-
Rose.
Yeah.
Again,
There it is.
all organizational issues that we do
Okay,
revolve. So, city officials interaction, again, with the little bit of redundancy because we have references earlier to here, so mostly just to clean up. I think you guys all know this is just, city manager form of government, day-to-day responsibilities, employment relationship. The city manager can always be done by contract. There'll be annual evaluations, like your evaluation is June. But we can hold an evaluation anytime you guys want to do it. Open communication, and then staff roles. So our job is to execute as your staff, that's our job is to execute your directives. And so your guys is to create the policy and the directive, and our job is to execute it, and we live in two different worlds, so. And if
it's
you want-
okay for us to reach out to staff and get information, but not okay for us to give direction to staff.
You can always,
Correct?
you can't give direction to staff. Generally speaking, the way it's handled is you can always reach out to staff, but just let the administrator know that you've reached out to them and kind of what the topic, or include them if it's like an email.
Okay.
CC them. Or just at least understand that if you communicate with them, then the default is for them to tell them,
City
hey,
Okay.
had a council member who called. stuff
Have
like
this
that.
question.
Yeah.
So,
One of my concerns, I don't think it happens, but, for protection for Rebecca or our city manager, that sentence, the city, administrator is responsible to the council rather than to individual council members.
Yeah.
One of the things, and anybody who's been in a position, you'll get, 5 different board members and 5 different council members calling and saying, this is what I want you to do. And it's the same thing that we talked about earlier. I mean, it's, how do we, protect our city manager from that, so that, she's, or he is being responsive, yet not receiving a different message from someone else and then gets caught in the middle because councilperson A says this and councilperson B says that. Now, what do you do? So,
I think when we talked about this last, one of the things we said was hypothetically, say you reach out to Rebecca on an item
Right.
and you say, I'd really like this to happen with that item. And then coincidentally, if I reach out to her after the fact and say, I'd like something else to happen, she would let me know at that time. I've already received direction from another council member on that same topic. So we'll be bringing, she handles it and said, I'll be bringing this to council now because there's there's a conflict of two mindsets.
Right, because then at that point, there may be
Five.
Different, five different, and you guys have to figure out, you want me to go right or you want me to go left? You want us to spend money on it?
Right,
Or
yep.
you want us to park that and go, think about it later? If I kind of get random calls with totally different direction or a lot of confusion, that's my cue, we need to bring it back to full council.
Yeah, I don't know if we could write anything any different from a practical standpoint. It's just,
And I think what he's talking about is that we don't want to get her inundated with requests from us doing different things, right? Is what,
Yeah.
or that type of thing.
I mean, I think like that classic, I don't have Facebook, but somebody's bashing a city on Facebook or something, and one council member wants Rebecca to be really aggressive and respond. The other one's going, hey, you wrestle with the pig loves it and you get dirty. There's got to be some kind of layer of protection. That's why I asked earlier, and you said we are, so you've already answered my question. I would have assumed I'm not a council member. You're kind of alluding to the fact that I am, and I can say that. So, but I think we should be mindful and respectful of what we say.
no, I agree with you. And I think that goes into our decorum.
Yeah.
So I think we always have to be mindful and respectful. But the reality of it is, we have difficult jobs, which is why we get paid what we do.
Yeah.
At the end of
the two of you have difficult jobs.
Yeah, and you guys get paid. We don't even know what the state's paying.
So, you guys are battling to get a fraction of the minimum wage. And I say that, it's kind of like, I think we both, I'm going to speak for myself here. I always don't like what I signed up for, but I always know what I signed up for. Meaning that I knew that this was a political job. I know that it's difficult to keep 5 people happy. I know that there's going to be challenges. And that's one of the reasons I get compensated at the level I do. And I'll put the city administrator in that same kind of boat as the city attorney's position. And that's why a lot of people don't even want to do these jobs, right? And this is more true of her position than mine because I have the best job ever. But administrators in particular, there's a lot of people who are very, very happy to have that pay differential between them and as a director and the city administrator, so that they don't have to be in the line of fire and don't have that level of responsibility, don't have to be quote unquote as political. But the reality of it is, let's say one person on council calls with a directive and you call with a directive that's different from that council member. When it comes to the evaluation, there's no way to make both people happy that may be reflected in a poor evaluation through no fault of her own, right? I'll say the truth, same is true in legal. No matter how well I advise you on a legal case, if you lose it and it costs you money and you're really unhappy, like I got either a jury or a judge who's a random group of human beings, which I can only advise you to the best of my ability how I think things are going to turn out, but there's never 100% certainty. So when you get a bad result, you might look at me and whether it's fair or not, you may judge me poorly because of it. And so that just jock casually.
But I think if I were to ask you, and with all due respect, Rebecca, this may come out sounding like but if I were to call you and ask your opinion, I don't want you to tell me, well, what do you think, Mike? Because I'm asking your legal opinion. So I think there's a hierarchy of when someone approaches you, there's an assumption that and I don't know if it's even given direction. I mean, cause I don't think we leave. But you understand, I think there's a difference. When I ask for
Between being
better,
heard.
yes,
Yes, I agree.
in terms of,
My opinion doesn't change based off of who's asking, because my legal opinion is my legal.
it's a legal, in that respect, that's what I mean. It's a legal
In
opinion.
that respect, my world is much more static.
Yes,
Is hers.
yes,
Hers is much more dynamic.
yes,
There's a lot more subjectivity to what she does than
Yes.
there is to what I do. At least the subjectivity as it relates to me is just how good I am at my job,
Right,
basically.
right, right.
In terms of doing those case evaluations. But mine are a lot more. So I agree with you there.
And I would say that is probably why what's the statistics on longevity of city administrators?
Like
3.5 years.
I thought it was
It's just,
four, yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah,
No, it's 2.5 to 3 years.
it's just like school superintendent.
You were there 22 years.
Perfect.
Beat the odds.
So we're moving on through, we don't have any
So city,
changes
I'm on
to city
so
manager
council, city
relationship.
attorney, we're on E, on
Yep.
14. I think that this is all kind of work. The same thing applies. The administrator, city attorney relationship.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, the only thing that we need to really clarify is on matters of legal, I'm the default. On matters of policies, of non-legal matters, she's the default.
So you're gonna add that?
Yeah, I mean.
Clarify.
I think that's a common understanding anyway.
Okay.
So access to information and flow, you guys have access to essentially everything unless it pertains to you. Now, you have confidentiality requirements that go with that, right? Particularly if you're looking at personnel files and things of that nature. So anything that you would have a conflict of interest, so if it was your family member, anyone who's an economic interest to you, you can't look at those guys. Okay? Council rule, we talked about that. Dissemination of information, you're just bound to the same confidentiality that we are. So for instance, if you look in the HR file and even though it didn't come to you in closed session and you go and disclose that and create liability. Okay. Staff relationships with administrative bodies, I think that kind of speaks to itself unless you have any. If you're there, when you're there, it depends on how you're constituted, but there may be a duality, you may be a board member there, but because you may be appointed by virtue of being a thing, you have a fiduciary responsibility. So that's it. Now, here's our restrictions on activities. So this is kind of where we would put some of the stuff we talked about earlier. And same thing with general conduct, expectations.
So I would, on the social media, I would just refer to our social media policy instead of those. Because that we spelled out, so, and
Yeah,
that
we did
was,
that a couple meetings.
Is that under I?
okay,
Hey,
Oh, under K?
Yeah,
Oh, gotcha.
fourth paragraph.
Well, and this is probably where we'll start putting in a lot of the stuff about somebody becoming disorderly, or new state law.
for the Zoom bomb or whatever, yeah.
Oh, general conduct
Mhm.
expectations? Okay. Although we did not pass that Zoom ordinance.
Yeah,
didn't.
You did not.
Gyrating.
So,
Got all of that?
are we on page 17 now?
No, 16, right?
16.
We're flipping.
I wanna just talk a little bit about,
Great, you're taking us backwards.
I'm sorry.
Going back a
I think, we say it here, but I think we also have to live the fact that, and I don't say it happens, but I think we have to be mindful and respectful of staff during council meetings
Mhm.
and make sure what we're saying, if we have an issue, maybe we need to hold off and meet with Rebecca and that staff or however it has to be, but I don't want to sit here and cringe because I'm beating up on Sam because Sam doesn't do a good job, and I'm telling Sam publicly, Sam, I wish you'd do a better job. And I'm hoping that that's what it says on the bottom of 16, or we need to add something, that we should just be mindful and respectful.
So we can definitely add language in there to encourage and set the tone, but I also don't want to take away anybody's First Amendment rights, particularly elected. So if somebody feels like let's just say somebody feels really strongly about something, and they feel like it's their elected responsibility to take somebody to task and do it publicly. It's not pleasant, right? But we all signed up for this as part of.
And I
You're only talking about director level and higher. Jim.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I get that. You know, I often had times, not often, but I've had times where people could chew on me, a member of the public, and I understood that they could chew on me.
Yeah, nothing we do about that.
And there's nothing we can do about that. I just would hope that we would refrain from that, if at all possible.
Which is what I'm saying. I think we can memorialize what the general tone should be.
Yeah.
Knowing that there might be variations, because you getting elected did not mean that you gave up your First Amendment rights.
No.
And so me as the attorney still has to protect that, knowing we all want to be treated with kindness. We all want to be treated professionally. We all want to be, and if there's something that we did wrong, the hope and expectation would be we're pulled aside
Right.
quietly, told what that issue is, and then we're given an opportunity to fix it. And if we don't fix it, then we find ourselves in a group later.
And I think this might go back to one of the protocols that we established early on. I don't know if it's going on anymore, but a lot of the questions that we may or may not have should be potentially talked about prior to council. So if there's a passionate item or an item that's contentious or a lot of questions, deep diving, we could reach out or handle that in our pre-agenda meeting with Rebecca or with whomever rather than.
Well, I think we're talking about
Well, but I think
It's the Monday, not before a council meeting, it could
The
just be
day
whatever, like whatever.
Oh, any-
You're.
doesn't have to be an agenda.
No, it could be like a pothole, and somebody's like,
That's what I was
second
saying.
time I asked you to get that pothole fixed.
Right.
Why is it not fixed? We're a month later, right?
Right.
So, because that's step, that would be Chris sitting back there.
So again, and this is the thing to remember. I'm going to use the pothole that I just gave you as an example. Rebecca's not going to go out, to my knowledge, and fix the pothole. I don't know what you do every day, and I know you're very resourceful and very financially conscious, but I don't know that we've reached the level that you're out for.
You're paving.
She's out there with a heart.
Exactly. But if the people in like Public Works aren't doing their job and you've asked for that to get fixed, that would be something that you would go into Rebecca's evaluation, or that might be a reason you call for something earlier and you like, hey, what's going on? Like, I shouldn't have to ask this many times. Now, she may have very, very good reasons. Hey, well, we got this project that we're working on and we need to finish, or the person who does that work for us is busy, or that we got to contract it out and they're not available. Could be a lot of reasons.
And I think an example of that is what we just did recently with Chris. He gave his report and we talked about the automatic meter readers and how much time it takes staff. And I think the consensus of the council was other things aren't getting done. People perceive the fact that what are you doing? And so therefore, if you have to contract out, but I thought that was a respectful way to do that also.
Yes.
I mean, we gave them an out, as long as it was okay with the unions and all those caveat things. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm of that.
I think you're saying have a heated argument in behind.
Yeah.
Call and talk to somebody about a heated argument.
Sometimes you can't contain your emotions.
I know, and you get wrapped up and then we say things. No, there's that too. I guess I'm kind of feeling sorry for staff a little bit that's sitting out there and there's 5 of us going, hey,
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Get it.
that's all. I think I'm almost done with my notes too here.
I don't know, we got halfway through that. Comments?
Should filling county or council
So we're on
vacancies?
17.
So
17A.
the clerk recorder at the county is the one that tells me if it's a short term or they can finish the rest of the term. So it's really up to them.
The discretion of the county clerk.
You're the clerk. Ultimately, it's all your responsibility.
Is he being funny?
No.
Well, no, because like I thought, who was it that I thought was gonna end the term? It was, cause she came in.
Because
Yeah,
I took over,
Jeremy.
Jeremy Leonard's,
Yeah.
which I didn't get to serve out the whole
No, she.
term. I had to run again for a
Mhm.
2-year term, but the county clerk determined that.
Correct.
But I think it would have been better if you would have been able to decide that.
So I mean.
She determined that it was gonna be a short term instead of be a
Because-
4-year.
Because less than 6 months had been served.
Yeah.
So she said because of that, they
So that
shortened
would
the
have
term
been
to
you and her
18
working
months.
together.
Yeah.
So there is.
I would just say this, the city clerk, whoever filled that position, when they're in that position, is responsible for everything related to the election. Everything else is just advice to you,
Okay.
if that
There we
makes
go.
sense.
And
It
then
doesn't mean you
for,
can't take advice, I'm just kidding.
so
Just
for
it's your
C,
call.
then too, we.
If you
need-
disagree with her, then that's, and I've had that happen, like Riverbank, we had a
Okay.
whole election over a disagreement with the election department.
Okay. Item C, we need to change because we just changed that other language, right?
Yeah. For the, planning
Oh,
commission.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Open meetings, this is just a regurgitation of how.
So I have something on the procedures.
Mhm.
On number 4, it says aerial font. So we are in contract with Civic Plus and it's a specific, they actually gave me a little bit more education on what fonts can be used and the size and everything. So I pretty much just went with their format.
So I think we should just say as deemed by the city clerk.
Yeah, because, okay,
Because the clerk is responsible for the
Okay.
agenda,
that'll work.
right?
Uh-huh.
For the publication of the agenda. The content of it, you're
Yeah. And then B, I don't do that.
Backdated posting.
I've never done that.
On B.
Do you have to keep some
Page
sort of,
19.
do you keep some sort of record
Oh, this be, okay.
No,
as to where you
it's just
post
our standard is always the post office, both
online?
and online and out here in front. And out in front at City Hall.
Well, let me check and make sure that that's
Okay.
not a state requirement.
And then the only thing I wanted to just point out, because this came up for another, agency, but you guys sit on, different boards,
Yeah.
is there's a difference between a regular meeting and a special meeting.
And an emergency.
And an emergency meeting. And your regular meeting is, it's the one that meets like every first Tuesday, every blah blah day at such and such
Sign in
time.
your bylaws.
It's defined here, right, when it's gonna happen. So if you were gonna cancel your regular meeting and put it on a Wednesday this one time, that is no longer a regular meeting. That's a
Correct.
special meeting.
That's correct. And
Okay.
at special meetings, it's important to remember, you're not allowed to approve, because you can have first hearing, reading or first hearing. But anything that involves resolutions, ordinances, or expenditures of money can only be approved at a regular meeting.
Regular meeting. And so you have to really be
Oh.
careful.
So does the actual name of the meeting
Yeah.
become a special meeting for
Yes.
March instead of the regular March
Yes.
meeting? It is, we didn't have a March meeting, regular.
Correct.
But that does mean that you can't approve like an ordinance, for example.
You
But
can't
you
approve
can't
resolutions,
execute
ordinances.
resolutions.
You're saying you
or-
can-
At the special.
At a special meeting. So special meetings should be used for like study sessions.
Labor
or
negotiations.
Labor negotiations,
Handbook
or
review.
this, right?
Okay.
What if there's a conflict for the second Tuesday of every month or of a month because 3 of us have a vacation planned and we say, well, can't we just do it on,
Every month you guys got to be?
no, a month of a given month. So say June, we all know that we're all have a conflict, we're all gonna
Just
make,
cancel the meeting.
we just don't have a June meeting.
Correct.
You can't say, can we do it the next,
You can have a special meeting, but you just
But you
can't,
can't do
you
business.
can't do
It
money,
would
well, you
almost
can, you can't do
What's the
ordinances,
point?
money, or.
Well, you can.
So
Well,
go
these
back,
are
can't do
informational.
ordinances,
Right.
Resolutions,
Okay, no resolutions,
Or
no
expenditures.
ordinance.
or expenditures,
Or finances.
Expenditures.
finances.
so you just missed that whole opportunity
Yeah.
for that half
But you
of
could
that
do
month.
you could do a closed session and do personnel issues,
Yes, yes.
negotiations,
Or a study
so-
session.
yeah, study session, like
You can do
this.
direction given to staff on any topic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You just couldn't,
You can do minute orders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do updates on parts.
or you can still do a lot, you
Yeah.
just can't do,
You can't do those things.
Financial
And I just bring it
resolutions.
up because
Right.
Approve minutes.
when you sit on other boards, just watch that.
Yeah.
Because you've got your regular meetings but it seems to be a little loose.
So if it's not in the regular
And
schedule,
this pretty much stems from the Brown Act, right?
It's state law.
Yeah.
Ordinance, it's ordinance, resolutions, expenditures, and money.
okay.
Any of those things.
So it doesn't just apply here at the council meetings, or does
No.
it spill
Oh.
over into all of the
All-
meetings?
Any board.
Any board.
Okay.
Any government board
Right.
that is, below the state.
Subject to the Brown Act.
Subject to the-
That's why I bring it up, because when you guys are sitting on those other boards, be careful.
Correct.
Because we're not controlling, like,
Right.
we know what a regular meeting is, and
Right,
we know what a special meeting is.
okay.
And so if you're sitting on any of those boards and your regular meeting got moved to another day, it's not a regular meeting, it is a special
Special
meeting.
meeting.
Okay.
And it needs to be agendized as such, and it can only have.
But you can do discussions, you
Discussions,
just
you
can't
can
make any
have action
decisions.
items.
Well, and you can do a first reading on it.
Okay,
So you can do
Okay.
the first, because
Okay.
ordinances remember two
Right,
readings.
right.
So you can do the first one, you just can't do the second.
Right.
Okay, we all got it?
There's my.
Yep.
Page 30. Actions.
30.
22?
What's that?
No, what is that right there? There's a-
That's 30 in the top, refer to the middle number.
Sorry, 19.
Okay,
We're on
hold on,
20.
she's on 20. The ex parte.
Yeah.
again,
Unless
Didn't
you
we
guys
already-
had something.
So we already did.
Or was that just different?
So here's the one other thing that came up in my conference. So, they basically like did a skit council meeting and it was called, Dysfunction Junction.
Oh, God.
My goodness.
And so it was like a spoof on like the worst possible things that could happen in a council meeting. BBK does the recap and just say,
This is all the violations
here's
that
all the
occurred. Yeah.
violations, here what you're supposed to do. So, what happened is 3 of the council members had actually talked to people prior to the meeting and then invited all those people and then they were texting one another at the meeting. And so what BBK said is, if you're having those ex parte communications with a party and they come to that meeting and you have the conversation with them about an agenda item and they come to the meeting, you should disclose that you had that communication with that party at the meeting.
Mhm.
So that the rest of council knows those 6 people are sitting there because
You invited them?
I've been talking to them about this particular agenda item and I invited all of them.
So the only thing I'll say about this is we should, as opposed to
Have to.
have to, because you don't want a procedural violation, like you forgot to disclose somebody and now whatever you did is completely obliterated in litigation. So that's why we keep it as a should.
So if someone comes up to you in the street and said, I saw your agenda item and you're gonna talk about X, Y, and Z, and you have a conversation with them, you should disclose that?
This is where there's a big divergence on council.
Yeah.
Right, so, I've only really had one city institute that policy, because what can happen is you can sit there in the first 5 minutes of every agenda, 5 minutes of every agenda item is people talking about everybody they bumped in at the grocery store.
Right.
talked to,
Yeah.
Then it can get, it can get a bit arduous. So most of my cities don't do it. Some of them will just disclose if it's like a bigger issue, like a development project, and they'll say,
I was
hey,
gonna say, like, if it's like
you know, talk to
Habitat
the
for
developer.
Humanity, like I talked to all of them, and that's why they're
I think
here.
we did do this. I remember disclosing.
Jeremy did.
Yeah.
Jeremy did with.
I think it was.
You did for
Habitat.
You
Yeah.
did that too, on
I
the.
think we all did.
I don't know, like, if I'm bumping into people downtown and they just ask me a question, I don't think they want, like, and they come.
They don't want you calling them out.
Yeah, like,
Right.
do they want me calling them out, like, oh, they contacted me, or we've had a text conversation and now they're
agree.
here
I think you
because.
gotta go into depth.
Okay.
Is it just
Agree.
one person, or is it like, what constitutes
Okay, come to the meeting,
this? 6
talk about that. I
people,
don't
like,
think that-
I think you just use your best judgment. I mean, my whole thing on this is that I don't think that this should be a prescriptive process for
I
one
think it's
reason.
a slippery slope,
But
honestly.
I think encouraged is probably, maybe even instead of should, it should be encouraged.
But is the difference about a party of people or an individual? Is that the difference?
Under this, the premise is that anybody who goes and talks to you, you're encouraged, or you should
Yep.
disclose to the public that people talk to me. I mean, I'd probably go to more to encourage to disclose people who talk to you on I think that the should please is a little bit more prescriptive than maybe encourage.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said it in the meeting, like,
They said we've met, I think.
yeah, or like, I know we've talked,
Yeah.
Like, if you went to a,
Mixer.
I don't know, the ACPA meeting, I don't know, and then the entire ACPA board is here, and you had a conversation at an ACPA board,
Yeah.
which we're not members of, so you
Right.
would be there as a, as a member of the public, maybe it's that. It's just, I mean, the point of it is, would the rest of the council want to have the information that you had had these prior conversations
For the
with,
public.
with the public, with a significant number of people?
I do think it's a good policy on really big projects, right? Like,
Yeah,
like,
like
the
a
habitat
development.
project.
I have a one-off from this. If we attend a meeting she just used ACPA as an example, and we're not attending as a committee or as a council member, should we divulge that whenever we say where we've been, were we only talking about when we say what we've been doing in the last 2 weeks? Do we only say where we've been acting on behalf of city council, or should we also throw in the ones that are like, and I attended a mixer, and I did this, even though I was just Jen when I did that, I wasn't in the capacity of the
You're talking
council.
about the close, the report out?
Report out, thank
So you
you.
can never talk about closed session, obviously, but.
No.
But, okay, this is where you each have your own style and each council.
I know, yeah.
I'm not a big proponent or believer in that agenda, because the reality of it is that I don't have a city that I represent where there's a tremendous viewing audience that really cares about every chicken dinner that you guys go to, right?
Right.
And so I just never, having sat through thousands of these meetings now, I've never had something come up that was like particularly persuasive.
Well, we're using it as an opportunity to educate each other.
Which is where I think that, so.
So while I
When
was
it's in board meeting, so saying that you attended a board meeting is usually done just for public consumption, you think like you're busy.
right,
and you're well-rounded, yeah.
And that you're
or
literally
that you're,
responsible.
yeah, exactly.
Yes. Big difference.
So there's that versus saying, hey, there's something I think that you guys need to know that happened at this meeting. So my own take on it is I fall into the latter camp.
Yeah.
Because I just don't believe that there's enough people watching who care that you went to 5 different meetings in the last 2 weeks. That being said, I didn't get elected, right? And it's up to you guys to decide for yourselves and as individuals, like what you think your constituents care about and what you care, right? And so it's just, I'll just give you that feedback and then you guys gotta do it.
So
Okay.
like at the county,
Yeah.
I had board of supervisors that would only report out if they attended something that they requested a reimbursement for. That's it.
Yeah, I see
So
that.
if they didn't, then you go around and they'd say nothing to report.
But what about the reporting of all of the like UWPA
Yeah.
and COG and like, that's when we usually do that, report out.
That's what I think that that's really helpful.
Right,
Like,
because we're
like-
sharing information, but
Right.
every chicken dinner, like, it doesn't really matter. It does, like, that's just
But some of us
you.
choose to say, and I also attended a really great function that was blah, 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 just for,
But your
That's
function
that's what
was,
you're saying.
you weren't there as the mayor.
that's what I'm saying. So is that appropriate or not? Or do we have to divulge? I also attended one chicken dinner because
You
it
can
was
say
a
it wasn't
great
a great
event,
fundraiser.
but I was there at the capacity of just Jen Herndon and not
He's
Mick.
saying that everybody puts their own spin on it. That's.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I think is useful,
Right.
versus what
But my question is, do we have to clarify? I was
No.
not,
you do not.
okay, if I bring that in and if I talk about one chicken dinner, do I have to acknowledge the fact that I
You
was?
do not have to say that Jim Herndon went there.
Yeah, in my-
Not as the mayor, but as.
I chicken
Yeah.
dinnered it by myself with no city council. Okay, thank you. I just needed to clarify. All right,
You and, I sit through a lot of these meetings. You'd be surprised how many people give you a list of 20 different things that they did.
Chapter 10, council meetings.
So this is just a regurgitation of it. This is really just to figure out, again, we have some organizational
Yeah.
stuff that's mentioned here, in other sections.
Rose,
Uh-huh.
you had some changes you wanted
Order
to
of
make
business.
to
The only
the,
one change I
It's a
really
roll
want to
call.
make is
Voting.
stupid roll call.
where's that
So the
landing?
only time I want to do a roll call is when somebody is on remote. And that is already in the Brown Act, so.
Or
So
is
that's
it,
in chapter 11.
so we're on
We're on
10.
10.
But you also had a request at one time to change the layout of the agenda.
Yeah, that's.
All right, I'm gonna have
I did the
to, we're
same
gonna
thing
go.
to chapter 11.
All right, we're on 10.
Well, you have 10.
Okay, so on page 22.
Yep.
Number 10 says recording of meetings. It says video recordings of proceedings shall be made and shall be permanently maintained by the city clerk. Well, do we want to specify only for regular meetings? Do we want to add other meetings may be video recorded as requested by council? Because if we go with this, right, then it's every regular meeting, every special meeting,
Every subcommittee meeting.
every.
Workshops,
Well,
long agenda.
But Rebecca too, what recording? His recording, this
Well, it says
recording?
video recording.
Oh, okay.
We-
So,
I mean, it's however you want to do it.
But I would make it more
yeah,
open
that expands.
so that we can.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a video or audio recording will be preserved of each meeting, and I
Just
probably
video.
put in accordance with, well, the problem is the video breaks down. Or if you go to a site where video is not available, that's
That's
happened
true.
quite a few
Yeah.
times.
But it's shall be made. And I don't know, like, what if PATV isn't available on the day that we're having the meeting? So, you see what I'm saying?
No, I think that this is a state law requirement, but it doesn't have to be.
That we have to have video?
No, there has to
be
be.
recorded.
there has to be
So can you just say
So then we
recording?
should say video or audio recording.
That's
How about just recording? Or does, I mean,
Do we just say?
Just say recording
I'd say just recording, and that's,
Okay.
that's,
Okay.
of proceedings, and then it shouldn't be permanently maintained by the city clerk. It should
Yeah,
be
but-
accordance with the records retention.
Whatever the
but
retention is.
let me bring up that JPA that we did. Would that needed to have been recorded?
No, because it depends on how you interpret this meeting.
All of them were there.
The joint GPA.
Uh-huh.
The joint GPA were.
I would say yes, that special meeting was,
Oh, yeah, no, but
that one should have been.
the entire city
Okay,
council.
then we as the city can direct when we want video, because somebody else said, no, I don't want them there.
Okay.
So,
Somebody else that would be involved in that decision making?
Oh, the fire.
we need to decide if the 5 of you were there, then Sam is going to be coming to record.
Well, that's not,
No matter
it just,
what.
it just says
Needs to be
recording, it doesn't,
Okay,
because that's what it says, is if they're not available, how do we do that?
One day.
I mean, you could have a tape recorder on it doesn't matter how you record it.
Well, I guess what's happening is when the other entity says no.
Right, but I mean, because that was the JPA putting the meeting on, not the
So
city.
here's what I'll say.
So the city wasn't attending.
Let's to the city council, and then we won't apply it to the joint meetings.
Okay,
Because of the.
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay, so shall be retained for,
Record.
Retention don't stay.
Also, on
They're not always agree.
item 7B, it talks about the mayor and vice mayor absence. It just states, going back.
Do we support the planning commission?
No.
That's what I was gonna say.
we record
She
audio.
does this kind of recording, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so we're limited to city council and planning commission.
You mean the draw stressing? Is that
Yeah,
what
I'm
you're
just
saying?
saying, all it says is.
She moved up on the B,
Yeah, I moved back,
7B.
because you talked about the draw straws thing, I don't know if that needs to be
I
more
think it's the same
defined, or
reading.
if it's fine.
No, as long as the mayor's here, you don't have to draw straws.
Talked about it enough, so
No,
I thought it
both
was
of them were
highlighted.
gone.
No, when it says the mayor and vice mayor are absent from the meeting of the council,
7B.
the council members present may choose another member to act as vice mayor and person shall during the, sorry.
I mean, we can keep it that way, choose or in the alternative, draw straws.
I mean,
I mean, you've never been a time where you can.
Right.
Rochambeau.
Rochambeau.
Uh-huh.
Probably.
Jump a frog.
Flip a coin?
So they just, I think it's maybe 3 council members who's gonna run the meeting, and that's what it said.
Right, no, I'm just pointing it out because we've talked
Yeah,
about
right,
it
we
enough
talked
that I
about
don't
it.
wanna skip it
Yeah,
and then
okay.
later find.
So we'll keep
We
it,
never,
we'll keep it.
Which is fine.
Three council
yeah, I
members,
don't wanna have to then, like, we
No
finish and be like,
drugs.
wait, we never talked about that part, so I'm
Right.
just highlighting that, that's
So,
all.
the town hall or community meetings, and I bring this up because we are going to be having town halls and community meetings here in the very near future. So it says only 2 council members may participate in the discussion at town hall or community meeting.
The word keyword there is participate.
So they can attend,
They can attend.
they just can't be part of the
Panel.
discussion, part of the panel, okay?
So,
No, that'd be in the notice meeting.
So then, we would
the
want
fact
to make
which-
sure that we probably agendize that ahead of time.
If
for
they're gonna show
council
up.
To decide who is going to be there.
Who's holding the town hall?
This would be for our Prop 218.
Oh, gotcha.
Or you could just agenda it as a special meeting with a workshop.
Oh, we could do that.
Doug, is it important to note,
We're talking about like when it's a third party town hall.
Oh, okay, third group.
You know what I mean? Like the chamber does an event and they want to have panelists
Or
from
like,
the community.
top trans, like.
Yeah, it's
Like
like
a
trans town hall meeting.
is it important to note that, you know, if the vice mayor and mayor are absent or 2 members are absent, then there's 3 members and those always have to be unanimous votes? Is that important to add?
Well, we
From the
can.
Council members?
Because you're talking about like certain things like expenditures of money required,
Right.
the majority of the council irrespective of how many folks are present. So then it
The quorum, yeah.
So it's the majority, so it could go 2-1?
No,
No,
no, majority of the council.
Majority of council.
Oh, majority of the council.
Yeah, I'm assuming meaning that as always will carry votes.
3.
Okay.
So
There are
one,
certain
3,
things-
or all 3 of you gotta say.
Yeah,
Like a minute action could go on a 2-1.
okay. Okay.
Chapter 11,
Does the format have to be in the ordinance?
Can we take it out?
This right here,
Yeah.
It's weird.
it has to be either here or it has to be in the municipal code. So would you rather have it in the?
It's not in the
handbook?
code, so.
So it's either has to be here or the code.
I'm fine to have it here, but that way it's easier, it's flexible for,
Can we say in there that it can be flexible?
Are you talking about the font?
no, it's at the lake.
Well, I mean, no, it can't be flexible.
Because really, conflict of interest, we don't do that. Items from city treasurer, we don't do that.
Well, this is the time to take it out.
Do we have a city treasurer?
it's the finance director.
Yeah.
Right.
Informational items, which is future.
So let's modify this. Can we just post?
That's what I'm saying.
So remove conflict of interest.
I have one thing first on the closed session. There's some AB 2715 saying that we can do cybersecurity now.
In closed session, yeah.
Okay, so do we need to add that here?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, to the list of things that you.
Yes, uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Actually, we don't need that part. We could probably take that whole part out.
Which one?
We can just say closed
E?
session. We don't need to say.
No,
Matters
it's your
discussed.
Brown Act.
Well,
It
you can
goes,
specify just the government.
That's what I'm
That
saying.
lists
Yeah, yeah.
everything
Okay.
you can do.
okay.
So the 1, 2, 3, 4 labor relations, personnel sessions, you're gonna remove all that?
Yeah, because it's just everything that's under government code section 54957.
And that's not the reason it's here. The reason here is to show the format of the agenda and like when things happen. So for instance, it's very common, like, I will always say that you should do closed session first, and then if you just don't have time, or if you don't want to do it, then you move it to, the end of the meeting.
And it says that in here.
I also want to make sure that our times line up in our municipal code, because some cities call special meeting for every closed session, and it drives me absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Session 6 or after.
Yeah.
So that was on page 1.
So what was the point of the conflict of interest? Do you know?
That's a part for them to just disclose if they have a conflict as a reminder. That's like a designated.
Oh.
To remove yourself from an item,
Yeah, so that we know when the mayor or somebody.
not when the item comes up, huh?
Can't we do that as agenda?
Yeah, can you do that like when you're on?
Just saying that was the record rationale for it.
Okay,
About third of my cities have this in, 2/3 don't.
So what do we want to do with conflict of interest?
It's just.
I don't think we have it very often, so I'm comfortable just having us remove ourselves when we get to that item if we have a conflict.
Yeah. Okay, so we're taking that out.
And then maybe kind of giving you guys a heads up going into it that, hey, I'm gonna be removing myself from item blah, blah, blah tonight, because I think I will come.
One of the recommendations, at the conference was to move public comment after public hearings. But,
Yeah.
You mean after every public
So,
hearing?
so,
no, like the non-agenda public comment
Mm-hmm.
period, to move that after public hearing.
it's because of what's happened in some of the cities on some of the issues that we're talking about. Basically, they never put an end to public comment.
It just needs to go.
It's like you go 3 or 4 hours and you never get to city business.
You can
Yep.
put a
No,
limit,
you
you can
can
say
limit.
30-minute chat.
Yep.
You can, but there's a procedure you have to go through.
Oh.
So you can't just like all of a sudden arbitrarily say that you're gonna.
And
We're gonna cap this tonight.
So,
But this doesn't seem to be.
So I
an issue
wouldn't-
for us.
I would,
Yeah.
so let me give you a couple of ways.
Yeah, we're good.
So Arcata gives 15 minutes and then, so that anyone who like needs to come here and talk about like the Girl Scouts or something like that, or who just won like a local spelling bee or something like that, there's an opportunity for people to kind of go and do that. With that, and since it's time limited, then everything's else backwards, and so people don't have to wait 2-3 hours. So there's like, they do 15 minutes and then they do the back end. So if you want to do that, then I think that's a good way of not pissing people off and then, because they have to wait until the very end to talk about like community events or something like that.
Right.
So if you're going to veer from it, I just wouldn't, I'll tell you after, in my experience, it really, really irritates people to have to wait through an entire meeting.
Yeah.
Public.
I mean,
They-
if the Girl Scouts
oh,
here and then we made them wait to the end of the
Yeah.
You
meeting.
can pull out an order, but it requires a
Yeah.
motion
Yeah.
and
That's fine. I got you.
So then, items from city council,
But like
maybe we
agenda
just call that future agenda
I
item.
think you had put that at the last though.
Yeah, and have that be down below,
Yeah.
and just
So
call
I-
it future.
I like our layout that we're using now,
Yeah.
Rose,
Yeah.
better than this.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
maybe mimic what we've been using more.
So,
Unfinished business, I mean,
consent
Yeah,
calendar,
that's right.
yeah.
so, and I can't remember, are we asking the public if they wanna pull anything off? consent?
Yeah, we
We are.
Yeah.
So
So
our
more people
policy says a member of the public may not pull an item.
Oh,
off
why would-
consent.
And that's one.
Luckily, there's never any.
So here's my thing on it. You guys got elected. They can make a request to pull something,
Okay.
but whether or not it actually gets pulled is up to the 5 of you. It's not up to,
Oh, it's okay.
Oh,
right? Because if none of you think it needs to be pulled just because somebody does,
Okay.
like, because you can get people.
So they could be recommending that one of us pull something.
Mhm, they can request it.
And we,
And then frankly, 99.9% of the time you're gonna do it, but if somebody's coming here and they have a different agenda and they just wanna wreck your meeting and they're pulling every.
Every time.
so that's happened before at the
It
board,
has happened.
at the yes. And they quickly changed their policy because somebody just pulled everything and it just got,
Everybody.
and they got up and said the same thing on every item and it just made it go till like 10 o'clock that night or something crazy.
And then the attorneys there also said that
So you
if
don't have to
you
ask that
pull, so if council pulls an item off consent, like pulls it to the side, they don't have to open it up for public comment on every single item,
Oh,
only give public
Yeah.
comment on consent agenda as a whole.
correct.
So you have to ask for public
But if you
comment.
pull an item, you have to
But
get public comment on the item you pull.
Okay.
So let's go over that again.
So yeah, so I'm not letting them pull, but we're letting
They
them.
can't pull it, but they can have comment.
So they get to comment on the consent calendar, and at that point in time, they can request to pull something. Let's say that one of you decide to pull one of 10 items.
Well, like we pull minutes because we weren't at a meeting, so,
Correct.
okay.
So, but let's say you pull one of 10 items. They are then allowed another bite of the apple to give public comment on the item that was pulled.
the item that was,
But only on that item, not the other 9.
right,
They have that one
right.
kind of like aggregate timeframe.
So the question is, right now, ours says a member of the public may not pull an item from consent calendar.
No, but during their comment on consent, they could be saying, I really wish you'd pull item 3. I'd like to talk about it. They're not pulling it, but then it's coming back to us, and one of us could say, I'll pull item 3 for Mr. Smith, we would like to talk about
So
it.
maybe that
That's-
has to be added to the bottom, you know, maybe that sentence.
I think we're good. I mean, I just-
think that makes sense?
Cannot pull an item.
They can pull it,
We just need to execute.
Okay,
but they get the opportunity to talk public comment on consent before we do consent.
for all 9 items? we
No,
need-
as a whole.
As a whole, as a whole, but if you pull one item, they
As a
can
whole.
comment on the
Every item that gets pulled, they get a bite of the apple on that.
Again.
On that.
Uh-huh.
Item that's pulled,
So you get your general one under consent,
right?
and then they get a
Yeah.
new time frame for each item pulled.
We don't do unfinished business.
No.
We don't do
New
new business. We don't do other agency business. We don't
What are
do,
we doing?
We do
we
regular.
do regular agenda. So you've got consent, or you
Uh-huh,
got regular?
regular.
Okay, I'll only specify second reading versus first reading.
Oh, we have public hearings.
Yeah, we do have
Consent,
public.
we have public hearings,
Then
then
regular.
regular, and then we'll
And then-
have a city administrator report.
And if we're tabling an item to the next meeting, it just goes back under regular again. So,
Okay, so we've got, okay, so what is it?
So-
Consent? Public hearings.
consent,
Oh,
public
we
hearings,
would have
regular,
presentations.
You got presentations.
Ahead,
yeah.
Okay. Then we've got, public hearings, regular agenda, right?
Presentations usually, that
But that's
H
up
up
here.
there is really proclamations and recognition.
I know, I think we're gonna keep it separate though for what we just talked about,
Okay.
meaning that we'll have presentations, proclamations, and recognitions, but proclamations will be handled differently.
Right, but presentations, like if Caltrans is here doing a presentation, it goes on regular agenda, but up the very beginning.
So you wanna get rid of presentations
Yeah,
here? And
just that.
I actually think that I don't do that in the other cities,
Uh-huh.
but I actually think from
Yeah.
a functional standpoint,
Yeah.
that's a better way of doing
Yeah.
business.
Okay. So we're just gonna leave proclamations and recognitions up top?
And we'll
Correct.
probably switch it, we'll probably put recognitions
Recognitions
first,
and-
so recognitions
uh-huh.
is a recognition of like an
Yeah.
individual or something like that. Or you would, that's not intended for like an issue like Gaza,
Right.
but like, for
Right.
instance, like proclamations is where you get into more of the controversial
Yeah.
ones.
So then we have the regular agenda,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
And
And
then,
then it's admin report,
uh-huh.
then it's council report.
Admin report.
City,
Rebecca gives her report.
city administrator report.
I'd keep it city administrator. I think admin
Okay.
sounds funky.
So let's say city administrator report, and then city council.
Report. And then we do calendar.
Future.
Future calendar.
No, well, calendar's just your guys' committees.
Mhm.
So,
Where does future agenda item after that?
no, and then it goes correspondence. Then future agenda items. And then adjournment.
So what I would do is I merge item from city administrator, city attorney, and slash city attorney. I don't think I'll ever have anything, which is right. I remember when I first started here, I had to come up, I had to mail. Oh, I just have to, like,
Well, I mean, you could, if you had anything, you can report out during either the admin report or the council report. Cause we did
well, I'm
that.
gonna do it as an admin report, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think it should stay city administrator. And then I would just do city administrator slash city attorney.
Okay,
And so it's one item.
uh-huh,
And so then it's not really weird when we're not really talking about
yeah.
stuff, and it doesn't feel like we have to manufacture stuff if we're listed on the agenda.
So then down under C, it says again, any member of the city council may place an item on a future agenda by making a formal request to the city administrator. We decided that we're gonna then
You always have to make a formal.
vote on it? No, but then we said we're not gonna vote. That's one of the
You-
options.
You did say that was only gonna be for proclamations.
Okay, fine. Okay,
So what we, and the reason I was saying this is that wouldn't apply to recognitions. So it would only apply to proclamations.
no, earlier when we were talking about future agenda requests, we had said that we could then agree, like as a lump sum all together, that there's been 3 requests for future agenda items and we could kind of move forward with those 3. I don't know how that plays out. I don't think we have a problem.
I think we're good.
All right.
I mean, so informational items will now be informational items, future agenda requests, it'd be a much broader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Are we good on that? Anything else?
What was you bring? But I can't make it flexible, unfortunately. I can only
That's fine.
reference it here.
Okay.
I think it's more flexible by doing it in the handbook.
Well, and, I mean, these guys know she can move an item to the beginning if somebody needs to.
Right, if somebody needs to get out of here, you can do the H to A or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just update D, because it's items from city council, city treasurer.
Yeah, this will be up to
Yeah,
the
so-
officer. I mean, on informational items, if they want to do a city treasurer who wants to do a report, then that would just go.
She
in.
has that part of consent or regular.
Public hearings, general procedures, look good.
So it's 4 o'clock and we're like just past halfway. Should we?
No, it's gonna go quick from here.
I'm just wondering, can we all throw out any things that we have in our
Oh,
notes
sorry.
and the rest, you guys, a lot of this stuff is cleanup language that maybe you guys can do?
Well.
Can we get through 11 and then,
Okay.
maybe just,
Yeah, so when they're talking about voting all resolutions, so this requires total membership, not present. It's, so that'd be, if only three showed up, it's unanimous.
yes.
Correct, okay. My question on this exceptions on 27C, bottom. It says, it takes effect immediately if it is an ordinance relating to an election for the immediate preservation of public peace, health and safety, blah, 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 blah. So I bring this up because we have the critical infrastructure ordinance.
Oh, whether or not it applies, I'd have to look into it.
And I would just say, like, our argument would have been, it was for immediate preservation of health and safety
It probably does.
and caused by forfeits.
Yeah,
So, and things like that.
that probably does.
Okay. The one other thing I found, there's a discrepancy between our agenda and what's on page 29. Our agenda says, 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
council is 5 minutes, public comment is 3.
We've been saying 5, right?
So on page 32, public comment for each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, unless the council by concurrence extends such time.
Yeah, so, I
I say
mean,
5.
you say 5?
I say make it 5 for the
Five's
public.
fine.
I
We
don't
don't get a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, but
can
then
readdress
that's
it.
on page 32,
If
we
you have a
need
lot
to
of
change
people,
that to 5.
yeah, you can have.
There's even been a time where I think I let somebody
Yeah,
talk
but you
again.
guys only get 5 minutes to
But then on page
Yeah,
29,
I think
you
we
guys only
restrict-
get 5 per our policy.
At 5 minutes, what does that mean?
On the top,
That means I'm gonna go.
Like if I turn my mic on and I start talking,
you get 5 minutes.
I don't know if you've ever-
When we do a
She gets interrupted,
discussion,
somebody else
how do
starts
you
talking.
monitor that?
so in a perfect world, each of us would talk and then we would be done talking and then it would move on to the next. But we kind of open forum it and we talk and then it comes back and we talk again.
5 minutes would be hard.
I don't have all my thoughts collected to talk all at
Well, and
once.
sometimes it's worse than other.
You got
It's very
somebody else.
sometimes for
Yeah,
questions.
so I don't think we should restrict us in any way.
No.
And I don't want her over there with a timer, you're going nuts, your finger's gonna.
Writing it.
Especially if it's a big topic and it's, got a lot of.
When you get
behind it, and
and
you get
somebody
thoughts
else says
and
something.
I just
send
don't
that.
like restricting us.
I don't want, but I do think everybody should have 5 minutes, not 3.
And we have flexibility to give either more time or less time. If there's a lot of people for public comment, we can cut it to 3 and say because due to time.
Yeah, I
Can you do
mean, well, cut it to 1 minute with like 200 people plus in the
that?
room.
Yeah,
But mostly, but really, I get nervous anytime it's below 3.
And that was on page what, Rebecca, 32?
32.
32 is for public, 29 is for council members.
if someone says, I don't feel comfortable giving my comment, I give my time to this person who's already got their time.
We don't allow yielding time.
Yielding time, yeah, that.
So we've had a few people that have not been comfortable going up to the podium and I persuaded them and asked them. One individual was not healthy enough. And so she kind of said, can't I just stay seated? Do I have to,
Make them.
can I make an exception and say, okay, well, as long as we can hear you properly, or do I
It's
really
really
need
just a
to?
matter of picking her up for the
I know.
Yeah, and more.
So we could potentially bring the mic over. Is that a wireless? No.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, we could.
Not only
Okay.
that, but it also encourages others then to speak from.
And
their
blurt
seats
out,
And
yes.
blurt out what they
Yeah.
want, so
Yeah.
they start to
Yeah.
lose control.
And it's happened twice
And it has
now.
happened,
Mhm.
where people then
Yes.
just feel like they can popcorn from the seats and talk.
And
out of
blurt
turn.
And really, the only reason that it's been tolerable is because we really get 2 to 3 people. It's not, if there was a whole room full of them, I think it would be different. It would be mass chaos if they were all blurting out, but.
I guess if you just read the room, right?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can just pull it back and say you're.
Hey, guys, yeah. I gotta get control here.
Okay, so this is gonna be changed.
So we're gonna do something with them.
No, something about no yield.
And then no.
So one of the things with public comment, and it doesn't say it here, is that I don't believe we should enter into any dialogue with the public.
We're not supposed to.
I mean.
That's how I.
don't know if
Sorry, Jen, it's the last meeting. I'm looking at you like, look at me.
Or I know we're not supposed to, but and you're absolutely right. We've all done it. But I will say one thing, the times that I have, it's because I feel like something needed to be said.
And I get it.
But the other thing is I have been told, and I know this doesn't matter. I've been told outside of here that people don't come to our meetings because they don't feel that they are welcomed or that they are heard or that it is, and I disagree with that. But I think that somewhere they're feeling like it's rigid and uninviting, and they come here and we just sit here and stare at them and they talk and then we don't, we might say thank you. So I have a couple times said thank you and I want to address, just to let you know, blah, blah, blah. And we've all done it. We've all said whatever. So I'm trying to make people feel more comfortable.
But
But to
maybe,
me, no, you don't.
but maybe it'd be better to say, just explain that during public comment, it's not an agendized item. We will listen intently,
I
but.
do that. I
Some
do
of
that.
them
And it's so scripted, but
Why
it
don't
goes
you
in
do
one
that?
ear and out the other.
But you do say, and
Well, but I think too, though, like, it could have been, Rebecca, please get with so-and-so
Yeah.
and follow up with this
Which
information.
we- and usually
And that's it.
We're pretty steady.
You were here till how late that night?
I'm a whole-
So,
On the,
It's not the most warm and inviting thing.
yeah, on the public comment, like I
Yeah.
had follow-up questions because I did, and I don't know, it's probably not okay to ask
Well, we
questions.
asked it for a future agenda item,
Right.
and that's what we're
Yeah.
gonna do.
But I wanted to get more
But
information.
then that's directed to staff, we'll
Right.
put it together.
Fine.
There's,
The way government is not set up
Government is cold.
to be,
yes.
it's so structured.
Yep.
and then in terms of the public, and we may just need to advertise this more, is we do have comment cards.
Very good.
Action. This is on page 33.
Mm-hmm.
One, comment cards
Are we
are
already on
option.
33?
Yeah,
Wow.
so if you're,
Get great.
if you don't wish or can't verbally address, you're not comfortable, you could put your brief comments on a card.
You turn the curtain stuff in.
We need to have that though.
I
mean,
like
we don't-
Sounded good.
I like that because there are people who do not feel comfortable.
Yeah,
coming to
and
the
then-
One little girl back there was like, she's from the high school.
Yeah.
She was like,
She's like, no, not yours.
It was crazy.
Crazy.
She put her little hoodie up and was like, no way.
Do they have to be present?
To make
For
that
a comment
comment.
card, yes, for a written comment, no.
Okay, so a
So
written
we would-
comment could just go to,
It becomes part of the minutes, and it goes to Rose, and then it's handed out to members of the council for
so
consideration.
maybe we need to add written.
I noticed that that's missing.
The other
What-
thing,
I mean, what happened to email? People could email at any time too, so is that?
Same thing.
That's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just electronic or,
All right, okay.
Do we have that on our agendas? And is that something that we would need to put on there that would state that if like, this is the email address that you could submit comments to?
no, so I think we need to advertise these
Yeah, we probably
as
should.
options.
But also, if we're gonna say that they can email it, have an email
typically
address
goes to
on
city
there.
clerk.
Right.
City clerk. I have not seen this happen here. I have seen it happen at the county, is the repetitious comments. And so you'll have an item and the speakers will just line up all the way down and they have exactly the same thing to say. So this
And the
says-
mayor actually stops that from happening and
Maybe the mayor and
resources that,
this city attorney's, well, and that's not, we forgot to add that. So for parliamentary procedure reasons,
Mhm.
so the mayor runs the meeting, the city attorney is usually tasked with assisting. Because of the way that we're structured here, I think that it should be the city administrator and city attorney are tasked with assisting the mayor, in it, because we may not always be here, right? Because it doesn't make any sense. So, hopefully we'll be here if you ever get to a situation where let's just shut people down. You have in advance, but with that being said, it would be on the mayor to do it.
But you do have this.
To cite to.
To cite to, if you're getting the same
Repetition.
repetitious comments on it.
Well, I think Jen, if she hasn't, she would say that from the beginning if we saw people lined up, you know, about repetitious comments.
Yeah.
yeah, now that I read that.
I think we would after like the fourth or fifth person.
Any more comments that are like this?
Right.
we'll ask you to-
Yeah, what I have seen is when that happens, they can say, look, it just come up and say
Your name,
the
yeah.
the name and whether or not you support or oppose the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It usually is development projects, honestly.
Yeah, I could see something like that.
They'll have scripts, you know, opposing.
At the county, it was cannabis, but it was, yeah,
Yeah.
it's usually some sort of legislative something. That's all I had for there. Anything else?
No, other than we talked about the whole.
Yeah, where's,
Oh,
roll
roll
call
call
then?
was on chapter 11.
What do you wanna do with roll call?
Roll call, yeah, and I don't think you can.
It has to be on resolution, needs to be, to happen is when there is somebody virtually on.
Oh, you mean roll call for every?
It has to be on a resolution.
No.
You don't have to have a roll call.
No, she's talking about after for every vote. She doesn't.
I thought it was like on a,
Roll call.
Oh,
on a task.
so there's a code section there about privacy that says that you have to be able to clearly discern how folks have voted on each item. And the problem that we got into is the only way that you could make with absolute certainty that somebody just didn't stay silent or something like that is to do a roll call.
Right.
So certainly on anything.
I guess I can understand if it was like 3 and 2, then a roll call, but if they're all at 5,
Yeah, but it
yes.
doesn't matter because if it doesn't get recorded even, what I would go is,
But Jen goes 5 yes, or 5 whatever, or 3, 2.
either the rest of them isn't saying.
And then-
How would you know it was 5? Especially, I'm pretty quiet. What do you, I didn't vote.
There were times when we didn't do, when we weren't doing roll call, that I felt like we didn't get everybody's voice heard.
Well, and sometimes, like Gretel, for
Gretel, I was just gonna say,
like-
sometimes Gretel, and I was looking at her like, she hasn't said
Yeah.
either way. So I don't know if she got voted, like, you know, if it didn't get caught, so I just. That,
So I think you could apply it in the way that we apply the whole resolutions, ordinances, expenditures of money, so anything that's not one of those 3 categories.
See, there it is, resolution, ordinances, and expenditure.
Because if somebody challenged, it's really up to the challenge, right? Like, that's what we care about.
That's what requires a vote?
Yeah, see, I knew there was something.
No.
Oh, I thought it was resolution,
The
ordinance.
standard is in state law, I just think
You're
it
just
matters.
extending the meeting another
She's
like
talking
1
about roll
minute.
call.
I mean, come on, real.
When to.
It was 8:45.
How about just a show of hands? There's a, I don't know, whatever.
For show of hands,
I mean,
but then,
I try and do it. When I go yay, I raise my hand.
I do that especially if I'm online. I'll raise my hand.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you could, if you wanna get rid of roll call, then if you do a physical act like raise your hands, and so it's really clear that everybody voted how they voted. But you also can't remember to say abstention then, too.
Yeah.
What's the sign for abstention?
You have to call the yays, the nays.
Nay, and then abstention. Like,
You'd have been done with roll
you
call.
can hide your face.
We have embraced your roll call now, I know.
Good. We're used to it now.
It was weird for a minute.
I'm sorry.
Done.
I know it's,
I think it's safer for these people.
You just do such a great job. You get that big smile on your face and I like that.
I hate talking.
Not only on camera. Yeah.
She likes to sit quiet.
You can do like your turn signals, you can go, yeah, and sing it.
It's a hard time there when he comes up.
I do every time. I do this. Yeah. All right, what else we got?
Okay, on chapter 14, it lists
This is
the.
museum.
Page
Page 37.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff about the museum commission,
I think for time,
Yeah.
we start.
so just
Yeah.
read you all that. Okay, one more thing. Under administrative rules, page 39. So
Yeah,
it
I'm on.
talks about, and this only references the museum commission, it's silent on the planning commission. Vacancy caused by absence. If a member of the museum commission is absent without cause for more than two successive regular meetings of the commission, but we don't have a museum commission, but we have had, planning commission absences, and this question comes up.
This is part of what got not transferred over. So,
Okay.
so that question's dealt with.
Okay. Does it, so it's just.
It's like that, but for every.
Okay,
Not just museum.
okay.
And it will,
Okay, but wait.
and we'll write it so it's future proof too, so any new committees.
Commission to start.
Without cause.
What
That
about
means
cost? What is cost?
Yeah, that they can just go, I
Advance
can't make it
notice.
tonight.
I'm sick.
Yeah, I'm sick.
No, it's not just that.
Well,
What is cause? What
Yes,
warrants there
uh-huh.
being cause?
Clarity on cause.
correct.
I'll put it in there, that's the best way. Cause is like if you have to be out of, you're sick, you, have to take
Work.
care of a loved one, or you have a work obligation.
So, and then let's say that one meeting, there was no notification, no show. The next meeting
Then that's.
was a canceled meeting, and then the next meeting, they.
You can't hold a canceled meeting against somebody.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed.
And is it about being consecutive that they missed them, or is it about in a period of time you can't miss?
State
No,
code
it's
says, now
consecutive.
you can set for your floor however you want, for you
No,
guys
I'm
it's
just
consecutive.
asking.
Well,
For
I
us,
think
it's
her question was, they missed a meeting, didn't notify, there was a canceled meeting, and then
It starts all over
The
again.
council
starts all
meeting,
over.
because
Yeah.
because it was canceled.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hold a cancel, they didn't have an opportunity to show up.
No, but then they missed the next meeting.
Showing up anyway.
No.
They didn't show up for the first one, the next one was canceled, so we don't hold that.
So it's consecutive. That's consecutive.
That is consecutive.
Yes, it is.
But I'm saying you should count the canceled meeting against that.
Oh,
Like you can't count that
You
as.
can't count that as a miss.
right,
Yeah.
Right. Oh, no, I was thinking
it just, it basically didn't happen, and so they
No.
missed a meeting, and then they missed the next meeting, that's consecutive meetings.
Yeah,
Even though the one in the middle got canceled.
but the meeting being canceled can't be the meeting.
Right.
That's.
That they
taken.
missed.
Consideration is their second.
It's like it never happened.
Right,
It's
it
just
can't be
like
their
it never
second.
happened.
And this says, there's just like, it goes in all this detail for the museum, but then down here it just talks about planning commission.
But that's because.
Three.
We'll fix that.
And then, that's all I had.
That's all I got too.
That's all I have to.
Oh, I have three.
To that.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I'm good.
okay.
This roll, whatever my roll call needs to be.
So with that, I think we're good on this item. Might call for a slight break. And then, we can reconvene in the closed session.
Come back and go.
So you might want to call closed session and then we'll take the break before we start.
Okay, we are going to,
Adjourn.
adjourn to closed session at this time, guys.
Okay.